And we're. I have one thing to do on my computer and then we can get started.
So I figured out how to keep it so it doesn't, go into sleep mode.
Oh, okay,
I'll show you later.
okay. I bought, while I was in California this week, I bought one of those small monitors that you can plug in to a computer and have, a laptop and have two monitors. So I bought one and I only bought one. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let you, somebody can play with it. Whoever wants to play with it can play with it. And if you guys like it, then we can get more for, other people, but I only got one. So. You guys gonna flip a coin, who's gonna work with it? Or did you say you already have one?
I don't have one, but I mean, I can get one. To my job, for my work.
Well, I don't mind getting one to go with your work computer.
It is, I mean, this is.
So tiny.
When I picked this up and opened it out of the box, I was like, it's so tiny.
I know, we called it a baby computer, but,
I do struggle, because I'm so used to dual large monitors, but I like.
well, of course, the monitor that goes in here is probably no
the same-
bigger.
Yeah,
It's the same.
but still being able to expand.
Same task.
Well, I was thinking how when you were on, with the floodplain management people and they were showing some stuff that it might have been nice if you'd had one monitor with what they were showing if you were wanting to do something on another monitor.
Yeah.
And so, anyway. Okay. So we'll call the meeting to order. There's a lot of papers here, guys. So be prepared. All right, so today is Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. It is 6:07 PM and we're starting the work meeting. And first thing I did not put on here the thing that you added to the public hearing poll about the updated capital improvements plan. It is on the public hearing notice. It is not on here. It would have been item G, but all the papers are here. They're they're very last papers, so we can talk about it, but they would be item G. So just so you know, but they're here for us to talk about. And in fact, when I talk here on the budget about capital improvements, you may want to just talk about it there. Because I have capital improvements as A2. So if you want to talk about it there, that's fine, wherever you want to talk about it. About the capital improvements thing that you want to do. Okay, so the first thing I have on the agenda for us to talk about is final budget review for the so we can vote on it next week. It has to be voted in by June 30th, and so our meeting's on the 25th. So we have to vote on it this next meeting, a week from today. Okay, so Candace sent us an updated, or still sent us the updated budget worksheet for next year. He sent this on June 12th, as you can see at 9:04 PM. That they sent this over for us. Now, this is pretty much everything we had talked about at the last meeting, I do believe. However, because you guys had questions about contract labor, what was put in the budget for capital improvements, salaries, and then under contract versus Unicode, that's supposed to be Unicode, not Unicode. So, I have some stuff, some contracts added here for us to look at for Unicode, Sunrise, and personnel plan. All right, so the contract labor, I did not have time Well, I did have time. I pulled files, but what I was looking for was not in the file that I found. Under contract labor, there was a new contract that was signed with Gene Garate last year after we changed his, or after we changed him from being paid by fees to a salary. And we re-signed a contract, but when I pulled his personnel file, the contract was not in there, the new contract. I don't know where it went, but we signed it. We sat here at the town council meeting and signed the new contract. I don't know why a copy, the old copy is in his, the old contract is in his personnel file, but not the new one. But I know what we agreed to, because I told Heath what to put in the contract and we signed it. So,
Interesting.
interesting what?
Well,
And this was signed last year?
yeah, the
Because
question,
it was in the contract this
the
year.
question I have is, I mean, I don't have a problem with mayor's doing, getting it prepared. It was consistent with everything we talked about at commission level. But contracts technically should be approved by town council.
I'm sure we did a year ago.
That's what I'm
It was
wondering.
done a year ago.
Wondering if it was or
You
not.
guys did a ratification
We did
In March.
ratification good.
of 23.
Yes, but it's,
Okay.
the contract just goes on. It's,
Right, it
not- it
wasn't-
doesn't read, we don't
It,
redo
it
it.
didn't have an ending,
No,
no.
Okay.
so I know
Good,
we
thank you
did
for
that.
the reminder. Just don't remember doing that, so.
Now, I know we did because we had it on the agenda, we voted on it, and then Gene and I signed it right here at the town council meeting with Heath.
Good.
And that's what I'm saying is not in the, in his personnel file. I don't know where it went. Where it got filed.
Well, it might be on our SharePoint.
It probably is on SharePoint from last year.
Yeah. that
Yeah,
was
I
in
think
June.
that's.
It probably
I have a
would
copy
be-
of it right here, and I think that's where I
Okay,
got it.
that's probably where you
And
know.
it's signed by you
Uh-huh.
and Jean, but there's no date for you and there's no crystal signature, so,
It's
Obviously
probably
not,
not
that's why.
finished. Okay,
but Jean already dated it March 14th.
okay. And that's when we would have done it because it was
March.
after, after we changed Jean's job duties and all
Yeah.
that, we redid the contract and then we talked about it at the meeting and signed it. So there's another copy fully executed somewhere in
The
the
finals.
Yes, but if you've got that, that tells you what he was getting.
Yes, and I don't wanna get us in the weeds. I mean, the subject of it is, I do have some other additional questions and all of my filed notes. You had suggested that I go through the detail ledger that you provided in April.
Where we
To
talked about
identify
contract labor.
contract
Yeah,
labor,
yes, yeah.
so I took your suggestion.
Hey, I wanna look at something on it, because I didn't look, I want to check something.
And I went through to identify, for myself, and
that's what we
to figure out what would be. And Chigarati's not on here anywhere. The only thing that I think is probably in is the CD November meeting. I don't know what CD means, I don't know if that's cash disbursement, or if that is something else, but it's repeated. And the amounts are kind of odd, don't really correlate with this contract. It's there again. And then it's also in building and zoning, and so I just don't know what, like. No, that's this one. So I'm like, and there's two different accounts.
No, it should have been under contract labor, I don't know.
I guess the only thing that's similar between the two accounts is the pay or description. That's the same, that's consistent between the two accounts. So that's what makes me think it's for the same purpose, but it's not identified by an individual or a reason or.
Yeah, that is not that $1,250. That is not what he would get. Oh, wait,
It's not the
maybe,
same amount as the other accounts either.
No.
They're kind of, they vary.
But the contract that you have there should have listed his pay, the contract,
It's an annual,
yes.
yeah,
And so then he just gets paid every 2 weeks.
right,
Yeah.
so that's what these amounts that are showing on the detailed ledger don't match up to the equivalent annual payment.
Okay. Then we would have to ask Sil where he is putting Gene's pay, because I sure thought it was contract.
What's the date of that contract?
3/14/23.
3/14, okay,
That's when he said,
22, right?
23.
23. And it does have a footer date of 3/9/23. I mean, this is from April, so it's outdated, so
Yeah.
things may have been corrected. For closeout of the budget, I don't know if it was, anybody noticed, but like, all the Christmas bonuses for employees were paid out of contract labor.
Well, that's interesting, should have just been there payroll.
Yeah, so maybe that's been corrected, maybe that was caught, I don't know, like I said, this is from April, so.
No, I know I never told him to change that, so it's probably still in there. So anyway, contract labor, as I told you, was Hinton Burdick, what we pay them,
Right?
and what we pay Gene is supposed to be in there.
Supposed-
What we pay Ken Cornelius when he helps out is supposed to be in there. When Purgatory Correctional Facility comes once a month and does stuff to help out around town, that's in there. And then, as you saw on there, what we pay Carolyn for the cemetery is in there. Cause she's not really an employee.
So,
So would purgatory vary from month to month depending on what?
Yeah.
So it's a contract where we just pay like the hours.
They send us a bill, yeah, they send us a bill. And I have to say, when I went back and looked at the budget for contract labor, it says $17,000. I was like, really? Did we really, why on earth we would have put 17,000 in contract labor? For this past year, the year we're still in, I have no idea, given that we know that just Hinton Burdick alone is more than 17,000.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that was a typo by, Sil as we were entering numbers, because I think he made a typo elsewhere, when he was entering a number that had to do with the travel conferences that you were upset about with regard to, public works, and it made no sense, and I think he accidentally typed an extra zero when he was entering. So it came out 72,000 instead of 7,200.
so, and Hinton Burdick is also paid out of, for contract labor out of the water as well. It's not just the general fund,
Okay,
so.
but in any event, contract labor is, that's what it is.
So I just wonder if there's a way, because we have a building inspector as its own line item and GL account. We've got attorney, engineer. There's so many GL accounts and I don't know how the GL accounts work. I just wonder if, because the account is such a $5 expense across the county, if it's possible for it to have its own GL account. Identify it by itself and not have it lumped in with so many other things that are a little bit more miscellaneous, like purgatory is a little more miscellaneous.
We
and such
certainly,
a smaller amount.
when you look at the numbers for the GL account numbers, we certainly have, numbers available. So we could do that. So what is it that you want to see beside it? So, the CPA, why that's in contract labor, I don't know, instead of being its own GL account number. So there's the CPA, there's the zoning
So the
administrator.
zoning administrator, I think, should have its own GL.
Now, he has indicated that he is willing to move from being independent contractor to employee if we want to do that way. So he said, if you guys want to make me an employee, he doesn't mind. And so then he would end up under salaries instead of contract labor. Then, because we already have something for zoning administrator expense, this down there's 1044.
Right, and I was wondering what that was, and it was highlighted, and so I wondered, like, is that in case he needs to be reimbursed because he might have some expenses to get?
I have absolutely no idea,
Okay,
couldn't tell you. Nor do I know why it's highlighted.
and the building inspector slash zoning, I guess. I think that's where it throws you off a little bit too, to have that slash zoning.
Where is that? Because mine just 1044, 360
I
pure
don't know, the
building.
budget documents changed so many times. And it's been updated, and it looks so much better.
What does?
The budget document, the most recent one from June 12th. Does it not say that anymore? Okay, that's been changed,
Which one?
1044, 360.
Oh, it was
It
building
used to
inspector
say
slash.
slash zoning,
Yeah,
and
so
so
we
that
can
was,
fix
that was a little bit confusing.
All right,
So whatever he decides to do. The only other one was, we talked about recently IT services and put it in the
Yes.
budget, but going through this detail ledger, I don't have it in here in the contract labor, but, in the ledger, it shows IT services.
where?
Les Olson and,
Oh, that's,
and it's categorized under the web support. I don't know.
that's, yes, that is them maintaining the server for us. Why they say web support, I'm not really quite sure, instead of, server support. Because as soon as electricity goes off, they get notified and they contact Crystal, say your electricity's off, because they maintain the server that's down in the basement. And, the only web, they are not our web provider.
Not the web
That is
provider,
Civic
but,
Plus.
but they did provide me with IT support when I myself as.
Yes, it's IT support, it's not
Yeah,
web
so
support.
when you're saying IT support, you mean a web page master, basically?
No, we're talking about if there's something wrong with your computer and Les Olson comes in and fixes it, we call that
No,
IT support.
But the one that we were budgeting adding in, because there's already IT services in the budget. So what number are you talking about, the 1044, 338, which is computer, but web support? And then there's another one that's IT support?
The computer slash web support should be where Les Olson's expenses. go.
That's all less,
It should
no
be.
matter what.
That's where Les Olson is, but it's not IT support is what you're saying.
It is IT, it's not web support.
Oh, that's
So
what I was.
this should be computer slash IT support instead of web support.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because the,
Okay.
what we talked about adding
Uh-huh.
was they wanted to have somebody doing the website. And
Yes.
that's a webmaster.
And that would be a
I
different,
think that's where that was confusing, because
Right.
web support is like, oh,
Yeah.
you're managing our
Yeah, no,
website.
so it's a, no, it's a webmaster, it's something different.
yeah, so
We
this
had
should,
one of those and she retired.
yeah,
Long
so
ago.
web should be changed to IT. But I think right now, Civic Plus, which is doing the website for us, I think that's going under software expense, but I'm not certain. I would have to look at a detailed printout to know that, but, so that's, if we change that from web to IT, does that resolve what you're thinking?
Yeah,
about?
no, that's,
Okay.
that's super helpful.
Okay.
Just. And then whatever gets decided with zoning administrator, whether it's employee or contract labor.
Okay. Anything else about contract labor before I move on? to
I'm
Cal?
just wondering what would be any advantage to making the inspector an employee?
Well, if I understood what Marcy was saying, is that it just looks like contract labor is such a high dollar value Where if somebody's in salaries and it's employee salaries, you go, oh, okay, employee salaries, what's this contract? Why is it, why are we why is it costing so much? And so,
So you basically just moved the amount of money into salary, but it doesn't change the way we work with them.
Yeah,
no,
well,
no, it doesn't change the way we work with them at all. Oh, it does, yeah,
except it really affects the working conditions. Because he's now an employee, falls under the personnel manual,
There's
and that
that.
contract would go away.
When he's technically retired, does he care if he goes as?
Gene?
No, I thought we were talking about the building inspector.
No, we're talking about Gene. Gene had said, we were talking zoning administrator.
Okay.
Gene had told me, oh, maybe 3 months ago that if we wanted to switch him to an employee instead of being an independent contractor, that he was fine with that. And, that's what we were talking about, is whether.
Sorry, I missed some.
Okay, yeah, we were talking about that right when we got here.
Okay.
And
Okay, I'll leave that alone.
if we're gonna do that, this would be the time to do it because it's the new budget.
New budget.
So we would not fund the position as contracted services, but we would fund it as an employee.
Yeah, so that would just take some money out of the contract labor, what we're budgeting for contract labor. It would just get moved out of here and moved over to salaries.
And if we do that, we want to make sure Dean understood that he now falls under our personnel plan and not under his contract.
Yeah, he knows that. We talked about
Can
that.
we
when he
just
came
move-
in and talked.
Couldn't we just move the zoning administrator contract fees to zoning administrator expenses?
But we were just saying, we don't know what that zoning administrator expense is. It's $0. We don't even know what it is instead of, he was
I'm sure
under,
it was when it was singled out when we were paying him based on the buildings, the building
fees.
permits and the
Yeah,
fees.
that could have been.
So that's probably why that was there, but why not just move it back in there and then it's separated out?
But
Unless
he
you guys
might
want him under the employee policy, but if you just want him as a contract labor, we put it here.
correct, we could do that. We could just change the word from
Separate it out.
zoning administrator
Yeah,
to administrative expense.
It would help separate things out and then we wouldn't have to make any big changes and we can chew that over for a while
Okay,
and decide what we wanna do. Cause like, don't we have to put out for the zoning administrator if we take it from contract to employee?
do we have to do what?
Don't we have to do a job announcement and put it out?
I wouldn't think so.
And-
He's just moving from independent contractor to employee. I can't imagine. It's not like, it's not like it,
Yeah.
I think
Maybe
so.
not, okay. Just question.
For one reason, well, in addition to putting them under the personnel manual and our policies, is the perception of the citizens are, hopefully now they understand that it's contract. But for the longest time, you had to explain to them, he's not an employee, he's a contract employee. And so there was that confusion.
so you're saying by making him an employee, there's no more confusion there.
Right.
Making any zoning administrator, whoever it is.
I feel like we're picking at sticks with that, like, I mean, picking at things that we don't need to. Because he's already a contracted labor, why change that to an employee?
Because he came, I'm just saying, he came to me and said, if you guys want to move me to employee, I don't
But
care.
it seems like the only reason we're changing it is because there's confusion, but it's an administrative thing.
No, right before you got here, Missy, I had brought up the question and then Jean had mentioned, well, he talked about switching from being a contractor to an employee.
That's how it just came up, yeah.
It doesn't seem like a benefit really, I guess, with any change here.
The only benefit is that he doesn't have to pay his own taxes and we take them out and pay, that's the only benefit.
It's sorry, it's paying some taxes anyway. So,
Okay. So I have made a note that we will talk to them and ask them to put the CPA under a GL account, a separate account.
Yeah, I think
And
that would
it not be under contract labor anymore.
We do have in CP roads and CP parks and the water department contracted labor,
They're gonna have to give me an account number.
Okay. 4640 350.
46, 40,
350.
350, yes, contract labor. Okay. You're wondering why we
I
put
just don't-
17,500?
Don't know what it's for.
I think it's because, sometimes when we are repairing a road, we will hire the,
Asphalt company.
yeah, to come in. I'm sure that's all that is.
Yeah, and so it's the same thing for parks, and it's probably the same answer,
Same
the
thing.
same amount.
So because yes, contracts, and you can see it's the same amount, so we took some figure and divided it. Let's see, the water, do we have contract labor?
There's
That's a lot.
110,000.
That's contract check.
So I'm like, oh, do we have a project or something planned, or is this just
No,
worst case?
I know they
scenario?
they used to do, chip sealing, and I think that comes as a contract labor, because we contracted out with.
Out of water?
No,
The other street,
we have
The roads,
We have it in the roads,
but not out of the.
but it comes out of the roads, but yeah, they chip seal the roads, and that's part of that contract.
So
We have
just
zero.
they're planning for possible expenses.
Yeah.
That's all.
Question better than none.
I'm building my FY 25 budget right now, so.
Yeah.
okay, so. Are those your issues with contract labor?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I will say, I'm not sure why water had 110. It makes no sense, given that last year we budgeted 30,000
Right.
and the actual was 24. But we may have more with this, water tank project coming up. My guess is that that's why we've been, increased it so much.
Okay. And just some maybe to make a note about, eventually, I'm sure the fee schedule is gonna be looked at. It still has zoning administrator fee listed where it's actually development review committee
Yes.
fee, it's not. So,
CPA, it's not a zoning administrator, it's just, yeah, there's some other things on the
So-
fee schedule that need to be changed.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
That's not the only thing. There's
It's
the-
just something I came across and I was like, okay, where's all this money going? And like, so when people get a pool permit or a solar permit, that money stays with the town, right? That doesn't get passed on to anyone.
No. Let's see, go back to.
It's handled different than it used to be, so. Just trying to learn, understand. Next year it's gonna be a much quicker, smoother process.
It's always hard the first time you go through it.
I'm-
It's confusing, you know?
I'm actually very happy because this is the most time since I've been on the council that the council spent reviewing and analyzing and questioning the budget. It's a good thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of work that's been put towards this.
It is,
This year.
It's,
I think it's coming together.
it evolves, it's
Yeah.
forever moving
Yeah.
target.
Yeah.
And understanding these documents in their format, I wonder if, I guess these reports come out of Excel, right?
Yeah, they do.
Does it have the capability of printing reports in Excel?
Yeah, you can export them over, but it's kind of messy, but you can do it, it's just a little messy. I can go in and play with them, and Crystal can do. And see if we can get it to print, but they can print all of these as well. The items.
Well, I'll tell you this, what Cassell
Tell you
told,
what's coming up.
what Cassell told me, and we are not signed up for this, is, there is something called My Excel that we can do an add-on to, and then they can export to Cassell, but we've never signed up for that.
Something like $10,000 is sign up, or 5 to 10.
It wasn't that much. I have it written somewhere where I went over with them, all of them. The My Excel was not that much.
Cause it was a smaller program.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little thing.
Going through that GL detail account document, I mean, it was, I don't even recall how many pages long, but I was like, if it was an Excel, I could get the answer to my question in like 30 seconds.
And they could clean this up a little bit in the way that it's put into the system, it just shows them more numbers and more line items. Which, I mean, you and I both know where the budgets that we have are by line item. And then you have to dig further in here after that, but they could do that.
Yeah.
Like especially with certain ones like the contract labor and
Mhm.
salaries and things like that, you could separate them out.
Supplemental report or something. Thanks for you guys and everybody. That's fine.
And they could make it a jail code that, on its own, like the salaries that are breaking down.
Oh, that would be.
Even though it's different codes they're paying on, they could. I like some of their trainings, there's just so much it can do that we don't have access to. So, it seems like it's nice. You learn a lot, because if people come in and teach you a lot, and those consultants, and it's changed a lot since I did it, but
Yeah.
anyway.
Okay, so, if there's no more questions on contract labor, we'll move on to the next A2, which was capital improvements. And so after, if you, oh, I see you took apart your
Me?
clip, yeah, you
Oh,
took apart your clip.
I've still got it in order.
Okay, so after the budget itself, you get to this page,
Yes.
okay. Okay, got it, right, that, and got it, okay. So Misty went in very nicely and fixed, the way this was showing, because it was, the way it printed. Remember, everybody printed it, and you almost couldn't read it, you needed a magnifying glass. And then you went in and did something, and all of a sudden, it's like, it's printing the way it should.
Oh, yeah,
So
that,
thank you
yeah.
for whatever you did.
Yeah, I
So,
like this format.
so I wanted to show you because, the other was so hard to read, and Marcy said she did not know what went in capital improvements in the budget. And you can see what it is year one. Everything that is year one, I've got numbers, I've got costs, and it says it's coming from the general fund. One is impact fees, one has got general fund and CIB. And then I have total capital projects for year one to put in the budget. This is what was put in the budget, everything that was for year one, and all of these numbers that are filled in here. If you go past this spreadsheet, here, you get to this page. These are all Rod Mills's numbers where he said, this is this, this is this, this is this, and that's what I did when I put in the spreadsheet. So everything in the spreadsheet is based on this, right there, that Rod Mills went through and looked at everything that was in year one and gave us pricing.
So we have to understand their estimates.
These were Rod Mills' estimates on everything. I did not come up with any of them. These were all Rod Mills' estimates, and that's what's in the spreadsheet, and that's what's in the budget. So if you look at everything that says, if you go back to this sheet where it says, this sheet here, I've got roads, water, parks in the column 3. I say if it's roads, water, or parks. And if you add up all the roads, that was put in the road budget, all the water was put in the water budget, and all the parks was put in the parks budget. Except for impact fees, the post plan, no, I said we put it in there, but we were gonna pay for it from impact fees. It wasn't gonna come out of the general fund.
And this doesn't include the 2 amendments to the capital improvement plan, which is the truck and the
Correct.
building.
Correct, this was based on us,
For the previous one.
this was based on us taking, suggestions from town people, and then we went around and
It's the first
sure.
approval,
Yes, that's what this is.
not the one that we're approving in June.
Correct. But but what you put in that we're gonna talk about later with the truck and everything, that's in here. It's in the budget.
Okay,
It's
It's
just
not
not
on
on,
the sheet.
not on the sheet.
that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
it's not on the sheet, it's in the budget.
So I can take the stuff that you added in, that you're doing for this public hearing about amending this, and I'll add it to this spreadsheet, because I personally like this spreadsheet.
I do.
So, that's easy to look at. Plus,
So,
it has all my notes in red from when we rode around and, where I said, yes, under this very second one, yes, this is a town road, because this was a question that was asked when we were doing our tour around, was where this one was like, is that really a town road? Are we gonna pay to fix that? Because there are several things you'll see later where it's like, nope, this is not a town road, and the town's not gonna fix that because it's not a town road. That's on page 3. You'll see a lot of red.
I appreciate all of this work, it's super helpful. And looking at just the budget worksheet and seeing, say, I'm just gonna throw one out there as an example.
Tell me
10-44-740 for capital outlay equipment. So when I look at just the budget worksheet and I see that 1.828 million, I go, what is that for? So that's why something like this in the plan is helpful, but when I look at the plan, it doesn't tell me, it just says general fund. So I guess I assume this is covered under that 1.8 million.
No.
This is covered under, so
No, the 1.8 is the church.
in its entirety,
That is the church plus the amount of money we're going to spend on, renovation. That's the church plus the empty lot across the street, and then the amount we're gonna spend on renovation.
so it's for nothing else.
And we put up, the
So-
time of the equipment is just there, it's not.
What, where it says capital outlay equipment? I don't know what the 28,000 is, cause we are, the 1.8 is the church.
Is it 28,000 truck or?
No, the truck, we're putting 50,000 in for the truck, and that's gonna be split between parks, roads, and, water.
So maybe I'm not understanding this, because like line 1 on this document has the funding source as general fund
Yes,
for road.
yes. Some are not capital, it's not a capital improvement, it is not to go under the capital improvement roads. Where we have the capital account for, let's
Would
see,
it be helpful for this funding source to identify a GL number?
yes,
That's where I'm getting my
Well, this-
brain wires crossed.
okay, this was not for you, when we created this spreadsheet, it had nothing to do with doing the budget. It was purely saying, here's the capital projects that need to be done, how much is it gonna cost, and what source is it coming from, that's it, that's all this spreadsheet is designed to do. It's not designed to tell us what GL account. Cause it's not a budget worksheet, this
Okay.
was purely to know what capital projects need to be done.
I was hoping to be able to hold this spreadsheet up and the budget worksheet and be able to identify, okay, this project's coming out of this account.
Well, we can
This project's coming
certainly,
out of this account.
modify the spreadsheet to do that. There is no reason that can't be done.
Does that make sense why I'm,
I understand what you're asking, but when we did this was purely for us as we went around town and looked, and they said, okay, how are we gonna prioritize these? What's gonna be done in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5? How much is this gonna cost? Where are we gonna pay for it? And that was purely for the capital improvements committee to use. So it wasn't really for budgeting, but we can make it work.
Well, it's a
I don't
good,
see why not.
it's a good idea, because the theoretic purpose of the capital improvements program is to assist in, budget. And, if you tie the two together, it makes sense that they're working dovetail with each other.
Okay,
That's a little more work, but, and that probably wouldn't be done until right at budget time anyway, so.
but if you go back, what Paul is putting on for the public hearing to amend the capital improvements, is it the capital improvements plan?
Yes,
Is that what it is? He's got the church in there, so if I go back and take what we're gonna do at the public hearing, and I go back and take this spreadsheet, and put all that in there, it'll show.
Is that on SharePoint?
yes.
Like, this did not have the church, because at the time when this wasn't about the church, this was just about, hey, guys, what needs to be done around town?
so this is just informational,
Yes,
doesn't have anything to do with the budget.
no, except that you can see total capital projects for the year that I put in the budget were $291,500.
Just takes the total and breaks it down and tells you what it is.
If it's roads, water, or parks, that's all that is.
I have a question about this. Are we going to put out another inquiry to the town.
We should.
See-
Yeah,
Would that be
we should be doing it like
next
every year. We should be doing it every
We
year.
should be doing it every year. What I'm gonna work on is revising our plan, just to make it more consistent with how we operated this past year.
Okay.
But we should,
We should do it
be
every
doing
year.
that.
We should be
Every
doing it,
year,
yes. Because, when we go to apply for CIB funds or anything from Pike County, they wanna see this.
Right,
And they wanna see what's been done. It needs to be updated like every year.
yeah.
So,
So
So
we're a
that's
little
up to the
bit
capital.
behind this year.
but would you say that's up to the capital improvements committee to be doing that? Updating it?
Well,
Updating this?
I'm gonna update it and then forward it to April's town council.
Okay.
That should update it, but yeah, I'm gonna revise the time schedule in our capital improvements plan and make it more consistent with Virgin's way of operating. And I'll run it past April as a committee member and you, well, can't do both because that's town council now, so I'll run it past April. And then
So,
send it on to the town council to look at.
okay. I was thinking I had another question there that had to do with what you were just saying. But, oh well, it'll come back to me. Okay, so the next thing, so that's capital improvements, and those are in the budget, okay. Next thing was salaries, and the only thing I was doing there was, I think the reason I put salaries on is because even though this is already in the budget for the treasurer, I have redone the ordinance for the treasurer. Then that's going to be voted on at this town council meeting, and it's on the public hearing, because we had to continue the public hearing. And I think I just listed salaries, because of this ordinance. This was, even though this was already in there, but because we are going to be voting on this ordinance.
The salaries, are we gonna hire a town manager?
Well, I put on but when we did the salary thing, I just put administrative person or official or something like that, because I didn't know where we were going to go with either a manager or a, planner. And I talked with Candace today and asked her a question, and then she mentioned that Tokerville hired their town manager only 3 years ago. And the reason they hired their manager is because they had multiple projects going on in the tens of millions of dollars, not just one, but multiple. Plus their population is expected to double in like the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And so, given that their population was gonna double, they were already a city, but now their population is gonna double, and they have like 3 or 4 projects, each $10 million or more. That's why they went with the manager. She said that she felt we are still just not there.
I
But
disagree with.
that's.
I feel like we are
I'm just
growing salaries more than we need to at this point, honestly.
I
And
agree.
we keep adding jobs and positions and salaries, and we are still a teeny tiny town. We don't need we don't need all of these positions that we are creating and adding salaries for.
Well, and maybe more than one position can be full-time
Right?
and reap the benefits that maybe the town can figure out how to offer.
And
And they
honestly,
can fulfill multiple duties, and so
So which
I feel like more-
positions are you thinking of?
I'm thinking as a whole, we've got to quit including, we keep getting code enforcement officers, which I understand why we need this. But we have to think of the fact that we are still, right, we're still
Right.
small, we wanna stay small, it seems like that seems to be the general consensus going on around. That we don't want things to grow, I guess we shouldn't say we.
Well, I want to make sure
Consensus is
what,
They don't want them to grow, but if we keep adding salaries and making ourselves, we have other things we need to do more than we need salaries.
okay,
We need positions.
okay, so I want to make sure
Planner is
which,
more necessary than a city manager, because we want to get our projects and make the town
Okay.
planned out in a logical effective way.
So this leads to the next
Well,
topic.
let me respond.
Okay, because I was gonna say, this leads to my next topic about
Yeah.
contracts.
I think we're in need of a town manager. We're already over, and I know it's partly because of the purchase of LDS Church. We're over a $2 million budget. And without the manager, we're at over $1 million budget annually, and that's just gonna increase. And we have a part-time, essentially a part-time mayor that's running $1 million, and pretty soon a $2 million, pretty soon a $3 million budget. And the mayor is overwhelmed with trying to supervise the employees, trying to keep up with the growth. And the time to do that is now to get a town manager in, before it's too late, that has the experience or education or both to manage the town. A lot of the problems we're seeing is because we just got too many things going on and nobody to grow. And I'm not criticizing the mayor, but I mean, she's in meetings where she needs to be.
I had 4 today, and now this.
Yeah, and how can she manage employees and everything that's going on if she's in meetings all the time because of the mayor? Position.
We have 3 for employees, right?
We
We
have-
have Jean as one, right?
Well,
It's 5. I think it's
Well,
5.
I don't count him as an employee.
So there's 2 in the
Yeah.
office and two
Public Works
public works.
and the parks. What I have in the budget for 3 full-time personnel. And then we have 6, Monica, Darcy, Kim, Jim, and, Randy will be. And then we have a code enforcement officer, that's 6 part-time. So we have 3 full-time, 6 part-time.
that's,
I think that's enough staff to finish, yeah.
so that's part of my issue that I talked about at the last meeting was, we have all of these people, we have the appointments, we have the elected, we have employees, we have contracted, and we're just growing, and when do we stop and we just keep growing in these positions, like the code compliance position and the emergency manager, I don't even know what their jobs, what the duties and nature is, and is the salary sufficient? It's so part-time, it's limited work, is the person really invested and really interested? And I just, when I think about personnel, it's as a whole, human resources in general, not just this part-time, full-time contractor. Let's not break it out, let's put everybody in the same category, because we're all humans, right? We all have personnel actions that have to take place. Somebody's being compensated in some way, somebody's got to handle the paperwork for that, file it with the accountant for payment, and some people get benefits, you gotta file your taxes. So there's a lot that goes into personnel management. There's also liability, workers' comp, that people need to be covered with. And so the more we grow and there's nobody able to dedicate the time to manage all of that, things start falling through the cracks.
That's why we need a town manager.
And so I
I'm
support
not-
a town manager for that aspect, but I understand also what Misty is saying. I mean, if we're just gonna, that's why I was saying to stop and take a hard look at our positions in the management, like, maybe we don't need a code compliant and an emergency manager, maybe that's one person, maybe those public works guys don't need to be 3 of them, and it's 2 full-time. Maybe our part-time clerk, maybe they're 2 full-time clerks. And then, because we've also got Darcy and Monica, so there's just a lot of positions, and so
There is, and they could be,
just
they
think
could
a
be
lot of-
shuffled, they could be shuffled and given different responsibility to where it
Right.
makes more sense. But
identifying,
these things that you're talking about, right, are making more,
identifying their jobs and their duties and their responsibilities.
because we have a clerk, and a clerk can do a lot of that, I do understand, but there's also a part-time clerk that can be given some duties as well, to help handle those as well. The clerk would have to work with the mayor on all employee issues. But it seems like the clerk has always managed the position, the supervised. Any clerk we've had has always supervised the people. Or worked with the public works person and they supervised, because there was only 3 employees. 4.
Only 3 full-time.
And so if you just take a person and you say, okay, so you're the public works, you are supervising and making sure all this happens. You're the clerk, you're supervising over the assistant clerk. And you make sure all that happens, and then you could give Darcy and Monica more to do, more things that are maybe related to the salaries. You could spread it out.
Well, and I just sat through a league training about HR and why it matters in small communities, and it was really good, and one of the big points they brought home was, if you can avoid it, do not saddle your employees with human resources duties. And I think also that's important because as a coworker, certain information is private,
Right,
and it's not any of your coworkers' business.
right.
So having access to privileged information is not always appropriate.
Okay, so all of this started because we were talking about whether or not we were going to put a town manager in the salary.
Yes.
That's how this all started. So you were saying you were concerned that we were hiring too many employees. You're saying you think we need them because I'm overwhelmed with all the stuff I'm trying to do.
Well, you're overwhelmed,
But I verified with,
and we need, or we're growing. We have over $1 million budget. We have over a $2.5 million budget. And that should be managed by somebody that's got the education, expertise, and granted a mayor every four years to change. And they may not have that expertise where a city manager would. The city manager kind of takes out a little bit of the sting of the political movements. It doesn't sway as much from the political winds as a mayor would in supervising. It will cover the management of employees, which does take a lot of time. And I don't see a part-time mayor being able to do that.
so according to, I was asking Candace this today, that because we're gonna have this $2 million budget next year, this 24-25 year, and then we pay everything out for the church, I said, so what's our budget the year after that? And she's like, I said, so where we have 1.8 million to do the stuff with the church this year, and we pay it all out because we buy the church and we renovate the church and then we move in the church. I said, what's our budget next year? She said, how much is it that you're paying off on the loan? I said, $50,000. I pulled that out. I said, I don't know, let's assume it's $50,000. She said, well, then the next year it's $50,000. It's not a $2 million budget for the church. It's a $50,000 budget because all you're doing is paying the loan payment.
But our
So-
budget will still be over $1 million.
What?
The total budget will still be over $1 million.
I don't know that that's true. It might be, I don't know, but it might be, because we're pretty close. If you were to take out the church,
If you
we're
take-
pretty close to $1 billion. You're right.
Yeah, if you take that 1 point out, we're still over $1 million.
Okay, so anyway, we've got money in the budget. We put money in the budget to hire another administrative person, whether it's a planner or a town manager, that we've put money in the budget. Now, as I was saying, this leads to the next thing that I have on the agenda here, which is contracts.
Okay, yeah, before we get there, I know we haven't made the decision on the town manager. I did put up on SharePoint. And you can look at it later.
Your proposed ordinance.
Well, yeah, an ordinance for us to start talking about and looking at if we go down the road with the town manager. It's patterned after,
Springdale.
Springdale's. I did not have time to look at Tokerville's to see what theirs did, but it gives you an idea of what that would look like from a standpoint.
Okay.
That's only if we decide to go down that way.
Cause yeah, I had looked at Laverton's several years ago to see how they did it, and then I've looked at Tokerville's to see how they did it. Also,
Yeah,
so
and
I've
so,
looked at several different towns.
yeah, so just to get us started in the discussion. And that may answer some questions and may not.
Okay,
So I just want to let you know that's in there.
okay, all right, so this next thing that had to do with, contracts. Hold on, let me check this. Yes, this was just town treasurer compensation. Okay, next thing on A4 contracts, that's supposed to be Unicode, Sunrise Planner and personnel. In fact, when I was typing it, it kept putting in Unicode, and I'm like, no, and I kept trying and it just, yeah. So, I have in here some contracts that I want to talk about. Now, Unicode, as you know, if you go to look at our code online, you, you pull it up and there's the different books. And if you go to look at the code online at other towns, they have this really nice looking code. And it's all by Unicode. And so I called Unicode and said, what's the deal? How do we get that? How do we get that much nicer looking code? And they're like, well, you signed up for what is called self-publishing, which means we update it and we do everything. They don't do anything. We do it all. With the new one, the one called Unicode Next, which I got pricing for, and I have a contract here to sign, if we want to go this route. And, the Unicode Next, they update everything. Now, I had a demo from them and I had, the difference in price, annual price, the difference is $500. From the self-publishing that we do ourselves to them updating everything for us when we send it to them. But what we get for that extra $500 a month, annual service fee is quite a bit, and I'll go over it. But there is a $10,000 fee to get it all set up. They have to first move us over from the self-publishing to, and it's all in here. It's in your thing here. I gave you guys, I did not
The
copy.
investment proposal.
This is the investment proposal. I did not give you guys the whole document. I gave you pages 11, 12, 13, 14.
I was looking, I'm like, what did I miss?
Yeah. I gave you guys 11 through 14 and then an email from him saying, oops, I made a mistake in this thing. Here's the real price. So what happens if we go to the updated code called Unicode Next, which is really nice, is also because we use their agenda preparation program, they will, when we now do, we pass an ordinance. Crystal has to take the minutes inside their minute program. She can't just do what she's been doing. You have to take the minutes inside their program. And then she records the vote for an ordinance. It automatically sends that ordinance to Unicode that with our vote on it, they then will implement it. And it connects up the minutes from the meeting, so when you go onto Unicode and you look up that ordinance, it will link to the minutes and to the agenda,
What if the data entered is inaccurate?
Well, there you don't. They send the ordinance, but they won't do the minute link until we approve the minutes.
Okay,
Okay, and then she has to do the minutes and say, okay, approved, and then it'll put the link in.
I was just saying, what if like the ayes and nays were not entered correctly and it's now on code and people look at it?
Well,
I don't know, I just.
I mean, that's probably correct.
I was gonna say, I'm sure it's
Gonna say.
correct,
And
but why, why,
We just
Why
have to
would
double
we-
check is what I think.
yes.
Yeah.
Double check.
There needs to be a checks and balances on
We are
that.
human beings.
Yeah.
So the other thing that comes with all of this is something they call Munipro. And Munipro, they only give us one login, but you log into Munipro and, indicate what it is what ordinance you want to create. And it will research, pull up similar ordinances from every town that uses Unicode, and there are a lot of towns all across the US. So where we now go, let's see what Park City did, and we go to Park City, and then you link to their code, and you pull it up. This will automatically find the section in their code and pull it up, and you can look at it right then and there without having to Google town after town after town.
It's called Munipro.
Unipro. So that Unipro is included in this.
Is this the one that you can also build all of your ordinances? Cause when we signed up for
The
this, they
self-publishing.
talked about one that you could, build your ordinances within Unicode.
Yeah,
That they would help it would make sure that it was all.
that was the self-publishing.
Right,
The self-publishing did that,
no,
but we've never, ever, ever done it.
that's what I was gonna ask, have we used it?
No, I've tried a few times after I took a class, I took the webinar, and I understood how to do it. It's really cumbersome. And I was like, it's really nice,
But it
but
makes it hard.
somebody has to be the one to sit there and do all that.
Hmm.
And who's gonna do all that?
So you've looked at this Munipro and this Unicode Next.
Unicode Next is the name of the whole thing.
Okay.
But it includes pro.
The price they gave us includes Pro.
Have you ever had any experience with Civic Link?
No,
Okay.
but Unicode is who we're using now. This is just upgrading to their next,
Okay.
their next level product. And, let's see,
There's so many different,
So that's what I'm.
there's so many, because
There's
if you
so
look
many
at,
companies
if you
out
look at like, when we did this, there were so many we went through. And at the time, these guys were doing exactly what we wanted, and we could actually afford to use them. And there's one, what is it called, and I don't know the name of it.
Granicus.
Hurricane uses,
Granicus.
is it Granicus?
They now, well, there's American Legal Publishing, but the bulk of it, if you look in Washington County, if you go to every town in Washington County, almost everybody uses Unicode.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
they used to use Granicus because
there's-
it was very,
Because of the.
yeah, and then
Familiar.
and so this one actually, we ended up liking it so much better after, and it was me and Monica at the time that went through it and looked at everything.
Okay.
We went to their trainings and stuff, and it was actually better.
So right now, we pay $1,250.87 a year for what we have right now. The Unicode Next is $500 more, so $1,750.
But a
So-
$10,000 upfront.
10,000 upfront to set it all up, and then it's gonna take them 6 months.
Cause there's
They said
a,
it will take 6 months to move us from what we're doing now. So by January, it'll be ready to go with this really nice thing that you see if you go to just about every other town. I have yet to come across somebody who does like us with the self-publishing. I know there are some towns. I haven't found them yet.
that was just the lack of funding.
I know it
There's
is.
So it's such a lack of funding.
But this is so nice. And then they'll take they have something called Ord Bank, which is also part of this. There's Ord Bank, Archives, Unidocs, Unipro, all the stuff that comes with this for this price.
Does it also include, like Granicus has the, where a lawyer reviews some of it in there?
They did not have that, they did not talk about that.
Okay.
Unidocs is where we can put other documents that we would like to put, for example, these executive orders, these administrative orders that you would like for me to start using. If I used administrative orders, they could go on this thing called Unidocs. So other documents that are not our code, but we want to be on this, we can upload. There's this thing called Archive Ord Bank, and they will take all our ordinances, and he showed me a town that's got their ordinances going back to 1940. They've got every ordinance scanned and on there, and we can do that. That's included. So there's a lot that this has. And then they will give us, once a year, we get a binder. of the printed code. And then they send us the updates, just like LexisNexis and, Westlaw would do. You'd have the binder, and then they send you the updates, and you would open up the binder and replace all the pages, and they'll do that. I think they said we get three binders. Was it 3 copies?
Did you say you did a demo?
Yes.
And is that free? Can one of us do that as well, or
You'll have to arrange it.
okay,
You have to set it up with this guy.
okay.
But I went ahead and had, because one of the things we're going to be, approving is the amended budget. So when we have our public hearing next week, we have to vote on the amended budget for this year and next year's budget. We have to vote for 2 different budgets. I went ahead and had Candace put in the amended budget for this year, this fee, in case you guys say do it, then we'll pay the check, we'll write them a check, next week.
What's that under?
And that's under the amended budget for 2024.
Also, we'll put it under the.
It would be in the amended budget for 2024.
Oh.
It'll and then next year, it would be the 1750.
Yeah, so we'll budget 1750.
Yeah,
1750 for next year.
And we'll pay the 10 out of this year.
Out of this year.
And we have the 10.
Yes, and it's, so with the amended budget is in here for us to look at tonight, but that's in there.
You want my
Is that
input?
something-
Yes.
Go with the 10. Let's
Do it.
Let's do it. If we got the money, it's coming out of
We
this
wanted,
year's budget
we want-
instead
I
of
know.
next.
Yeah.
I think it's about time we get into the new century.
I
I
told-
think they
yes.
would review them, yeah, editorial work and things like that, because we always had that problem. Remember, we started doing that whole, where we started having meetings and editing
yes,
the book, they're gonna do that for us.
yes, they'll do a lot.
Yeah.
Get a
They're
lot
gonna
for
do
this
all of
amount
that
of
for
money.
us.
And so, if you look at the email, if you're looking at the actual email from him, down toward the bottom, he has,
Yeah, what is this graduated year 1 and 2 to?
well, what he's saying is, year 2, 3045 is supposed to be 1750. You have COPA, Ordly, Unidots.
Oh, proposed options, what is the proposed?
We'll go back here. I think this was, he was adding Unidocs each year and, cause this is just, the 1750 was the supplements and the online code hosting. But adding some of these other things I wanted increased it. So I said it went up by 5,500, but it actually goes up more than that. But I say we do it because we have the money and it'll bring us, as you said, into the next century. Bring us up to date.
Well, this is an important part of it, is our ordinances need to be easily accessible to
The public,
anyone,
anybody, definitely, yes.
and easily understood.
And then I would assume whoever has the code to do the research, will just go in and ask that person to run the inquiry.
Or, cause they give us additional Munipro licenses for, let's see, what was the price?
So 110 per license.
Per license,
And an
okay.
annual increase.
Okay, so if we could get additional licenses for whoever we thought we needed that for, yeah, there we go, $110 each additional license. But, in the beginning, I figured there'd be one, we would have, the one login credentials, and either one person would do the research as you're suggesting, that people go in and say, hey, would you search this for me? But I was kind of thinking that we might share the login credentials.
Depending on how they got it set up.
Yeah. So I wasn't assuming that one person would
Or we could
would guard it.
Dedicate it to the office and then we could go down and research in the office.
Yes.
on one particular.
Yeah, you could have, yeah.
If that could be the licensed one.
So this Unidocs, if you're looking here at this page, which was talking about info, they say Unidocs generally will include minutes, agendas, resolutions, budget, anything you want to update, upload to the Unidocs thing. That is just a way for us to put documents for the public to find. So if you guys are in agreement, I will just have, if you guys think it's a worthy expense, then I will tell them tomorrow, go ahead and get started, but as they said, it'll take them 6 months
Yeah.
to do all
And
this.
once we get the one license, we can see how that works, and if it's not really working, we can always adjust.
Okay.
And
So
do
then-
one or two more.
So the next thing here I have, after this thing from Unidocs, I asked Sunrise to please tell us. I had contacted Sunrise because they are going to do the subdivision ordinance for us, because remember you guys tell me after going to the ULCT conference that you guys had gone to the subdivision conference, the subdivision breakout session. And that there were the different companies that would do the subdivision ordinances for us. And at first I said, no, we can do it ourselves. But then I was at a conference just maybe a month ago. And they had another presentation and I was sitting there looking at it. And they went into detail as to what the company would do. And I went, oh, okay, since it's free, let's just sign it.
Right.
And so I looked at their list of companies that would do this, and I narrowed it down to 2. There was a law firm up in Salt Lake that I've worked with in the past that I really liked them, and then Sunrise Engineering, their planning department. So I contacted Sunrise, they sent us a contract that of course it's free, it's paid by the state, it's free. And I asked them while I was on the phone, I said, hey, by the way, can we contract, is it possible for us to contract with Sunrise to use a planner to help us with other planning things that we might want, instead of us hiring a planner, could we do a contract? And they're like, well, sure, of course. So this next thing in here that you'll see after this is from Sunrise Engineering, it's planning services. And it is, their contract that they do with people that would use a planner in this method, just on a contract basis as needed. And then the last page is their hourly rates for all these different services that they offer. So it's not just planning, it's engineering, electrical engineering, construction, CAD drafting. Somebody who comes in and does training, a training manager, training director, funding, plan reviewer, building inspector, 1, 2, and 3, a building GIS, they'll do GIS mapping for us. But then they have planner 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 at different hourly rates depending. They have a water rights specialist. So surveys, they'll do all of this. Is stuff that if we were to sign this contract with them, we can say, okay, could you have an engineer, electrical engineer or electrical tech do this thing for us, or a building official or a building inspector. And we have a whole range of services, all of what a planner would do for us, but it's on a contract basis and they're not hiring. So I thought this was a good way for us to get a planner benefit through a contract instead of hiring somebody, having an employee. So it turns out that what they told me when I was talking to them about who's going to be doing our subdivision ordinance, and who's going to be assigned to that, they indicated that they just hired a planner that lives near Virgin. And they said, we got a planner that they wouldn't tell me who it was. And they said, I said, I need to know who this person is, because what if it's somebody I know and I don't like, and I'm not about to trust them to do anything regarding planning? And, so they finally told me yesterday, I found out who it was, and I was like, okay. And this guy is about to start work on our subdivision ordinance. They said he's gonna get started on your subdivision ordinance right away. But if we were to do a contract with them for like one of the planners only, this same guy is who it would be. And this guy was the zoning administrator at Tokerville. He's now left Tokerville and is now working for Sunrise. And, he is, his name is Riker Steglich. He was Cage's brother, is Cage's brother. And, Heath had said when we were gonna hire Cage, and I told him his brother worked at Tokerville, Heath's response was, Riker, oh my gosh, he said, if he's anything like his brother, he's gonna be a gold mine. He's like, Riker's great. And so now Riker's left Tokerville and is working at Sunrise.
Riker's got a lot, I think he worked for St. George as well, and Springdale.
Riker?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's got a lot of experience, and, when I told him that we would probably want them to be writing ordinances for us, he's like, oh, piece of cake. And I'm like, okay, so he seems to have lots of experience with that. I'd have to see, now the subdivision ordinance is purely, you know, a template. That's not going to take a whole lot of work, except that there's a questionnaire they'll be sending over to the town council to answer some questions as to what we want to see. And then he'll finish the ordinance, and then it goes to planning commission to do a public hearing. And I told them the deadline for that is October 31st, so that the planning commission can have a public hearing in November and send it to us, and we can vote on it by the deadline in December. So I've worked backward from that, and I said, your due date to get it to us is October 31st, but I think he's gonna get it to us sooner, since she said he's gonna be working on it right now. And so I had a Zoom call with, a conference call with Karen Peterson, the person who signed this, and Riker yesterday. And we were talking about what I would like if we do this. And, so this is for us to think about.
Okay.
I have no intention of just finding this and sending it over, but this was for us to look at and think about if we want to, and my main goal with this was purely the planner to write ordinances. Instead of the planning commission writing the ordinances, having a trained planner write the ordinances. And that was all this was about. But then when she said, oh, we have all these other services, I was like, well, that's cool. Look at all that they have to offer.
And the cost is just broke down by individual hourly rates, right?
Right, so if we were to say,
And one,
so even if I signed this, even if I
yeah,
signed this,
there's no
it-
financial commitment.
correct. And then we would end up saying, hey, we want to get this guy to do this for us. And then I call up and I say, hey, we want this, and they'll send a second thing for us to sign. And they estimate how many hours it would take and all that.
And is there a timeline that we wanna make a decision on this by?
I don't think so. It's just that I wanted you guys to have this to say, I figured that what I was wanting, if we were gonna hire a town planner, my thought was if we could do something like this instead.
This is awesome because
I think so too.
we can't really attract someone with the education and credentials because we have no retirement, we have no insurance, there's nothing drawing someone
Right,
like
and that's
to
why-
Virgin, other than a new experience. This would take a qualified person that's already being paid all of that, and we have it done.
Exactly.
And it's,
That's
you know,
why-
someone with the education, with the history, with the,
And that's why I said, send me this. And so she sent it today, and I printed it out and said, okay.
a neutral person, and one that's can ask advice from a brother that works at Springdale, but, you know, what I mean is.
Yeah,
And
And been in the middle of it.
and I assume we can expand our use of that planner from just writing ordinance to actually maybe taking a complicated project and giving us planning advice on it.
yes, because I did ask if, we had, say, someone come in to the office with some building, construction, commercial project. And they brought in these plans, instead of Jean, our zoning administrator, reviewing those, if we would be able to call up and say, hey, could you come and review these plans for us? And they're like, sure, we'll do that. So yes, we could choose off of this menu and say, hey, we need a GIS person to do this map for us.
Or we can call them and say, where does this fall? We want, we're
Right.
thinking of this, where does
Where's
this
this fall?
fall?
Here's a project, who
What do you
does that?
think, and how much is, what are you thinking?
And then they've got 3 different levels of building
Project
inspector.
manager right here.
They got
Yeah.
3 different levels of building inspectors, so we could call it if Lance wasn't around, or we had some bigger project that Lance wasn't, felt not qualified for, we could call them. So it's a lot of services that I thought we could use.
That's nice because the plants is gone and we need, from the building sector and the development sector, time is money, and if Lance is gone, if we have a different person, we could say, could you come in and take a look at this?
And then the GIS thing, because I wanted to get all the different commercial projects that are going on a GIS map. And Sunrise will do that, they'll charge us, but there's probably this guy at $83 an hour, we'll probably be able to do it pretty quick. But
So I wonder what the lead time would be, like, to get it built and inspected. For
I
example.
don't know, we would have to ask. I could call them tomorrow and ask. And you see, they also have some interns on here. Where's an engineering at the very top, the very first are some interns that can kind of get some experience and different things. So I thought this was a really awesome resource.
So I would, like I say, put it on our agenda for approval,
Okay,
that'd be my thought.
okay. So you guys liked the Unicode Next, you liked the idea of the planner from Sunrise, well, not just the planner, but all of these different.
It's a service agreement,
Yeah, yeah,
and
service.
then they would have to do each individual addendum, which we would then have an opportunity to
Review and approve.
review and decide on.
Okay, so then the last thing I had for contracts will answer one of Marcy's major concerns. And that is, the personnel.
Yeah.
Great. And that is.
It's the last section right after.
Oh, here it is, yes. So you can see, I asked him to do this back in January 20th is when he sent this over. With this, and this is the thing that you want, Marcy, which is, this is all about doing the, salary plan and all that stuff. That's what this is. And the price was $4,500. Paul already reviewed it and said he wants us to go forward with it and said where we would put it, contract labor? I think he said contract labor, yes. Another contract labor.
Another contract, I know that, was it Axel HR?
That
That was out of contract labor as well.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, of course it
Yeah.
is. Okay. So anyway, if you guys are agreeable, then this is, going in.
I
We
mean,
can either amend it, we can either put this as part of the amendment for the 2024 budget, and I can pay this next week. And have it out of the 2024 budget instead of the 2025 budget.
okay,
Okay, so I already had put in the 2025 budget, the 2024 amendment. To have that Unicode Next, that $10,000 to pay it this year, and we can do this thing this year. And so all these checks will get written next week, so that they are in this year's budget, not next year's budget. And then, of course, this Sunrise Planner is no cost, that's just,
Right.
that is agreement.
I mean, I'd like to hear from the rest of the council, but I mean, I think that's a great idea. I mean, I definitely want to read this before I make any voting on it.
Well, you can say, tell us, let's see.
Read this tonight, but
I think I asked Crystal when Sil was coming to do checks. I think it's a week from today. Would be before our town council meeting. So if you want to review it and just let me know before Tuesday, then I can tell this guy, Mike Swallow, to send me over an invoice. There is something he needs. He told me he needs a copy of the job description for every one of our jobs. As part of this, but he can send me an invoice, and if you guys say yes, then I can, tell him to write a check. So we were just talking about the fact that that was $4,500 and that you had already thought it was a reasonable price. And so Marcy wants to review it and then let me know.
and
what
is
she
this
thinks.
like a one-time compensation study?
Yes.
It's just a one-time thing.
A one-time thing.
One-time.
Yeah.
How long does it take?
I don't remember, it may say in here what his, time is, I don't think it was gonna take all that long.
I mean,
Scope of work, let's see, page 4.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'm gonna have questions after I read it. So,
I'll be shocked.
I wanna thank you though for bringing this forward with all of them, because of hearing me out.
I'm sorry, what?
I said I wanted to thank you for bringing this forward
Okay.
and hearing all of my concerns.
See, I was looking for, he has here, he has
3 months.
2 months.
2 months. 2 months, 2 to 3 months at the outset, but mostly.
This is page 10 kind of lays out what he thinks I want.
I just said,
Oh, I already have this, I could probably go ahead and just use this to go ahead and, page 11 is the, yeah. But he did call me recently, said, so are we doing this or what?
So about 3 months-ish,
Yes.
less than 3 months, it kind of.
Oh, okay,
Just our existing employees that we have.
yes.
All part-time and full-time.
Yes, it's not just full.
So would it include the new emergency emergency manager
It should,
and code compliance, but that,
yeah, he didn't, I don't think he made his price based on the different jobs, let me see what it said. on
There's
page
said
11.
9.
He says
Nine.
9 employees, at $20 each.
That
Cross
is,
job analysis,
That's
assignment
okay.
9 at $50 each. So you can calculate what it is.
There's more than that.
She said we currently have 6 part-time and 3 full-time, so that's just currently what we have.
okay. So yes, this does not include the emergency manager and the code enforcement officer, he just increased this to 11 employees.
But it looks like it's about just rough estimate, $250 per added new employee. So if we were to do 10, we'd probably have 250 to.
Yeah, so we'll be close to 5,000 for it.
Yep, I got it.
Okay, so that's all I had about the budget. And then we had an added, I think behind this was just the amended budget for you guys to review, the amended budget for this year. And that's where as I said, I went ahead and put in the amended budget for this year, the 10,000 for Unicode Next. Assuming we would sign the check next week and pay for them and they can get going. So I went ahead and put it in this year's budget
So we had to bump it up by 5 more thousand, what you have.
for
there
that.
For this,
Yes.
if we choose to do this.
So on a
Actually, let me
different,
look at my, yeah, go ahead.
on a different budgeting issue, it's pretty minor. But when I was at the planning commission meeting last week, Val asked if they could supply water at the open house. And I said, yeah. because they don't have a budget, so they would have to rely on us. But I would assume we got enough money to provide treats and stuff also for the open house.
Of course we do.
So I don't know what your final plans are, but hopefully it's more than water. Hopefully it's cookies and other things.
We're making cookies. We're all making cookies.
You're making homemade
Oh,
cookies?
that's awesome.
All right, let's see.
But if you need that at the last second, you can go and,
Thanks so much.
yeah.
Before we move on, I'm looking for my email.
Do I have to make a cookie?
Yes, I can.
I will forward to you guys the email that I sent to Candace, where I told her the things I wanted her to add to the budget for 2024 and 2025. Actually, the amended budget, she already put the $4,500 in there for, this thing we were just talking about. She went ahead and put that in. But I'll send you guys this email so you can see what I asked her to amend this year's budget with some recent things. And so this budget that we all have to look at has all of this stuff in it that I sent to her.
I just got an email from you asking if I'm available.
I did the same thing.
Calls and it's spam.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, I haven't sent anything out, I don't know what that is.
It's good to go with them, that works. You need to handle it, that's where, yeah, you need me to handle the task.
Oh.
We have like the email that
I'm
they.
trying to move in.
Yeah, it's their spam.
Was this through the work email?
No, yeah, through our Virgin Town, but it comes from somebody at Yahoo.
Yeah. Okay, so this thing that was resolution R 2024K in your packet, R 2024K is the amended budget for that we will be voting on next week. Okay. Wow, that took quite a long time to go over all of that. All the budget stuff. Okay, so that is done, and so now I have item B is the appointment of Becky as the town treasurer, so I've prepared a resolution for that. That's item B on the agenda, and I have the prepared resolution here for everybody. It's in your packet. I have it marked as B circled. Okay.
Will that be an employee?
Yes, and that's in the salaries that we already did.
Okay, and it's part-time?
Yes,
Was she included in those 9 employees then?
yes.
Oh,
No, the
Um,
9 employees that he was sending us, no.
oh, so
Uh,
we have 9, 10, 11, 12,
we have
12.
Darcy, Monica, Kim, Jim. No, Crystal's part-time.
There you go. Thank you. Is the code enforcement officer part-time then?
Yeah. I must have been including them in the 6. Cause I can't come up with anybody else who's a part-time employee other than Monica, Darcy, Kim and Jim. Anybody else? So I must have included them in the, as calculated.
What about the assistant to public works director?
That's a full time.
That's a full-time one.
So I must have included code enforcement and emergency manager in my calculation of the six.
Okay.
Okay. So
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so the treasurer's just part-time and we voted in, January or February, one of the two, to make the, town treasurer an employee. Because before, the town treasurer was working for free and was a town council member. And because we said, no, we're not gonna make it be a town council member, this is a person we're gonna pay them, we voted to make them an employee.
So, and this salary survey thing will be good because I know we were fixing some of the salaries and wages
Yes.
for classification purposes, part-time, full-time, and I just wondered if the amount set aside for treasurer and the municipal code aligns with the rest of our part-time staff and the wages they'll be receiving, just
No,
for
we-
consistency's sake, so that we're not out of line again.
No, because we were not calculating, I paid her a flat fee, not hourly. The others were all hourly wages. The treasurer was going to just be a flat fee each month.
Okay,
Okay,
and she's okay with that?
yes. This had,
Take it easy on it.
yeah, the treasurer, because I'd asked you guys, because we put $10,000 in the budget for the treasurer. And so that's only gonna be $833 a month, and I was asking you guys last month if we should bump that up to be 12,000, so it's
Yeah.
even 1,000 a month.
If she's willing to test the theory for us though, with her doing it this way,
Yeah, and then the
and then we
salary
can
survey,
adjust it later.
maybe come back and tell us
Yeah.
something that's
Like,
like,
adjust it, and we can start here, if she's,
as long as
if
she's.
Becky's okay with that, and then we'll go from there.
As far as I know, she's okay with
Like
it.
that, so
Yeah, she didn't know, she didn't say it,
it.
she didn't say anything, she didn't say otherwise. She didn't say, no, that's not good enough.
Just, I don't want her to end up working more than she thought she would.
Can we
Yes.
make sure she knows that she can tell us if it's like, if she feels like this is not sufficient, she needs to.
I don't think Becky's gonna have a problem telling us if
I don't
she's
think-
working too much and if it's not enough. I've got the impression she's got no problem telling us.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next is ordinance 2024-09, from the square footage ordinance. So we now have that from planning commission, and I had put below, so your whole packet here that is paperclip together, that is C. There's the ordinance, and then after, the ordinance is 5 pages. After that, I just printed out the thing that I had put on SharePoint with the link to the administrative rule on how they determine the size of septic tanks, based on the number of bedrooms and how they determine that, so that everybody could look and see the rule that has to do with that. And then the next thing, Bronwyn prepared a recommendation, from the town council, from the planning commission. And she typed up her form, and then attached to it is, some suggested changes from, isn't that already in there?
So is it my understanding that the, planning and zoning are recommending a complete rewrite of this ordinance?
We told them at the May meeting, what we voted on as a town council was for them to send us an ordinance based on the emergency ordinance that we passed February 1st, with the understanding that they could keep working on this, as they saw fit. And that's what we voted on. To send this one vote based on the emergency ordinance with the understanding they can continue working on it, with further amendments as they, felt was necessary. Correct, Paul? It was your motion at the, town council meeting.
It was to take action on what we sent them back in February.
Correct, and this was what we said.
Yes, but that was not to change their work on what they were also looking for.
Right, that they could continue on with that, but that we needed something because we had a deadline.
Yes, they needed that from what we sent.
So they can, basically,
They acted on
They
it.
acted on it,
they,
and so they've got these recommended changes, which can be done at a later date. I don't know that we can, if we want to include these changes in this, when we vote. Well, I need to know how, what you guys think anyway.
so I know that I listened to the, meeting, and there were a lot of people, public, that did not agree with the ordinance. That
And-
limit the size.
And this is what Bronwyn has written in her, recommendation, that there were complaints or objections, not complaints, objections. But, Crystal is required, when she does the minutes, which we will be getting next week, the, draft minutes from this meeting, it will tell us who made the comments, not just there were objections, but who objected and, what the specific objection was. So this tells us there were objections without indicating who, what, where, when, and why. But Crystal's minutes are required to tell us who, what, where, and why,
So I watched it,
and how.
so basically I know who,
Okay,
what, where, like.
you know all that, okay.
I watched it.
I did not, because I was on vacation.
I watched it.
was not watching. You did too? Okay.
Internet.
So one thing I noticed, and I thought about this later, is, I was reading through the, wastewater study again. And we have not addressed alternate on-site treatment plan for residential. When we say a 1,500-gallon tank, there's other alternative septic system designs. And a tank size doesn't address that at all.
That's true.
Yeah. And neither, in R 17, they also talk about alternative wastewater treatment system. So I don't
So,
know if we would need to address that at all, or, I mean, I'm not certain anyone would want to put in an alternate system. They're about $30,000. But I mean, some of the people with a lot of money might consider that.
I'm assuming that whether or not they're gonna need those alternate systems that you're talking about that cost so much, will probably just, depend on what the results of the groundwater protection study are that come in.
Right.
So once they're done with the groundwater protection study, we'll be able to tell, I think, whether or not we're even gonna need anybody to put in those alternate systems.
They would maybe, well, that would most likely be necessary if we allowed like a fourplex, or we try to do some affordable housing, we do multiple unit systems. But for maybe a single family residence, I don't know, honestly, they would even.
Well, one of the
Unless
things,
somebody wanted to put a casita in their backyard, and they weren't allowed to hook up to their existing septic system. And
well,
then
one
they
of the
had to do
things
that.
that, Joshua from Sunrise had said when he did the presentation on that wastewater study is that we more than likely need to require those alternate systems instead of that we should not even, their thought was that we more than likely should not even be allowing the traditional septic systems anymore, that we need to start using these alternate. And that's why I thought, well, let's just do the groundwater protection study and see what that says before we go to that. And the reason they did that, if you remember, there was a map in there where they put different colors and they said where this had bad, percolation, yeah. And so the bulk of Virgin was bad. And the only place that was good was like right around here, which was residential, and a little section that's Old Home Acres, and a tiny little thing over in Sierra Bella that has like 2 or 3 lots, and that was it. And they were like, everything else was bad to really bad. And
Well, if you
so,
read some of the older studies, they recommend a 1 unit for 4 acres. not 1
Yes.
unit for 1 acre.
yeah, because I did ask, I never did understand how, when Virgin had that agreement with the Water Conservancy District, how they came up with 1 per 1 acre.
I don't know.
When the study that they used, that they based it on, said 1 per 4 acres. I was like, okay,
I don't know.
whatever, that was the agreement. And so there we have it.
Probably a compromise.
I think so too, some sort of. compromise.
So I see a 10-15,000 square foot home that's being used for transient lodging in a neighborhood, even though it's, has the legal permitting, the legal zoning and everything else, to be potentially very problematic. It's very poorly managed. I see, and when I try and that's because to me, it's become a commercial use in a residential zone.
Mhm,
It is not a residential use.
correct.
One of the things I'm having the hardest time with this whole ordinance is the main objective and the main issue. Do we currently have homes in Virgin that are so large that they are impacting people and that people are complaining about, that has just a family living in it, that's just a resident?
No, we
Do
don't
those
have
issues exist?
Yes, we do.
We did.
Technically, we have a fourplex that was supposed to be a single family home that has received numerous complaints.
There is that, yes, complaints.
But that
And-
is a different type of situation, because it turned into something that it wasn't supposed to be, based on.
And that's, and that,
So is that, is
that potentially could happen in these particular cases. It can
What is
happen.
this?
It's a different
I
situation.
haven't looked it up.
I
Okay.
don't-
yeah,
That's a different situation. I don't think that could be counted as
It's
a
pretty-
large home that
just-
has an issue, because
if
It's
somebody
things
wants
to have.
to
Right.
build a house across the street and it's 8,000 square feet and it's for a husband and wife and their 6 children.
for my grandchildren.
What is that, why is that an issue and why? I guess that's my thing. What is the main goal and objective and what problem and issue are we trying to resolve? Like, it feels like we're being reactive, but I'm not sure what we're reacting to. I understand that now there is a lot of misuse and illegal use of transient lodging in town. However, we're told that this ordinance has nothing, specifically nothing to do with transient lodging. Yet it references.
We didn't say it has nothing to do with transit.
Nothing to do with short-term rentals.
We didn't say that.
No, they,
I feel like
actually,
I've
this
heard
came
that.
about
For
because.
short-term rentals are prohibited.
Okay,
Yeah.
but
This was started-
Jean, I thought you told us that the ordinance, the emergency ordinance had nothing to do with.
It was not solely short-term
Okay,
rentals.
so I
It
understand that
did,
there's.
it totally includes short-term rentals, but it was not solely short-term rentals.
Okay, so I understand there's an issue that somebody could build a very large home. Say it's their personal home, say that they live there, it's for them and their family. And then turn around and use it as a short-term rental, vacation rental, transient lodging, whatever you wanna call it. I believe that potential exists. I think there's already illegal activity, of that sort going on in town, and it's not being enforced. But I don't know if the town's been transparent, if this is what that's trying to stop. I guess I'm just asking.
Isn't the more likely scenario, because that, if somebody uses it, because now short-term rentals are prohibited, that would become an illegal use in which code enforcement officer would then start to enforce it. I think the more likely use would be the residential host, where you have the person living there and then renting out the number of rooms for transient lodging. Now, that's a legal use.
They're only permitted 4 rooms.
What's that?
I think it's 4 rooms they're only permitted to use as a residence.
Residential hosting can only
Yeah.
have 5 bedrooms, including the bedroom the people live in.
Yes, that's where, but that's where I think that the abuses, if any, is gonna come in.
Uh-huh.
And it's harder to enforce that because you got a legal use and then they just kind of expand that legal use to include some illegal use involved. That's the danger I see with that. The short-term rental, I mean, that's easier to enforce because it's prohibited now. And it's easy to figure out and go through that to enforce that. To try to enforce an expansion of the residential hosting, that's a hard enforcement issue. It really is hard to prove and find evidence on. So I think if you're gonna have abuses, that's where it's gonna come in. But I don't think it's short-term rental. I don't see this as a short-term rental issue because it's prohibited use.
It began because of a short-term rental, and I understand that there is that potential. However, we're taking a problem part of a problem that we are trying to solve, and now we're pushing it on our residents.
I don't disagree with that. I just was saying there's a difference between the enforcement issues of short-term
Right.
rental and residential.
And there always will be, because
Yeah, I agree.
John can come in and build a house, and we can say, here's the rules, and then John's still gonna use that home as a.
Yeah, it could happen in a house that's
It can
within,
happen into a home that's 1,200 square feet.
yeah, I agree with you.
It doesn't matter the
No,
size of the
I
home.
agree with you on
We're
that.
gonna have problems, but
I
to,
agree with you on that.
right, so I feel like we're just taking this issue and pushing it onto our residents and making it, like, number one, your outer buildings, you can't have over, there's a percentage you can't have over the percentage for your outer buildings as well as your home. Casitas, covered spaces, converted spaces, anything like that, we need to have, what about people that live in RV homes? RV garages that are very large. Or specifically someone who builds a shop, that they just love to work on things in their shop.
But that is not living area.
But
A
it's,
garage and a shop are
but
not.
it's
living
considered
areas.
in this original one. It looks like it's been removed in the amendment where it said any outer buildings. But in the original one, it was included in it. It was counting the entire size with
Yeah,
a
it's
12% footprint. It was not. And I feel like even with these changes, this is something that I feel like we are taking and pushing it on our residents instead of solving the problem with the original ordinance of just putting short-term overlay.
And I guess part of it for me is, all I've heard is opposition. And not,
There's no support for this.
I haven't heard any support or logical arguments. I think the planning commission has done an excellent job in
Yes.
addressing it and working on it and coming up with alternative ideas and solutions, and I think that's great. I think that's growing and learning and working through the process. Ron and I really appreciate that document that you sent. That was so
Very nice.
helpful and so useful. So,
I don't think that my criticism of this ordinance is in any way undermining your. Because you have worked your bums off. You guys are awesome, and you guys have worked so hard. And thank you.
and we have new council members and new planning commission members, and
It's great for what.
Well, it's a difficult problem.
It is.
And there is a problem.
But I think
It
our
is the
suggestion in the last, though, until we can come up with a more logical solution. I feel like the suggestion in the last meeting that we had of doing the ordinance where we put just in the short-term rental overlay zones. I feel like that was more of a viable solution than this ordinance, which we can come back to, but it doesn't mean this has to go away. But,
Well, if you look at the neighborhoods that we have, I mean, for example, Desert Gardens is pretty much built out, honestly. And Rio de Zion has got some lots available, but I mean, I think that their HOA has some pretty strict guidelines.
They don't have an outside figure. There's no.
No, there's no limit to the size.
There's a minimum, but no maximum that I'm aware of. There's only, as I said, as far as I am aware, there are only 2 buildings in town that are bigger than what this is proposing. So what this is proposing is not outside of what's the norm in town.
Well,
So
I think they.
even though you're saying we're stopping people from being able to build these houses and we're creating a problem that doesn't exist or whatever, but if you were to go through the town, house by house, you're gonna find 2 buildings in town that are
that
outside
are
of this.
currently built, but that doesn't mean that we're not attracting more attention of people that maybe want to build bigger homes and want to live outside of the city and want to build the homes the size of those homes that are in the city.
Then,
Or come in and do a subdivision where they create mansions.
And maybe they want a luxury subdivision,
And,
what's wrong with
and
a
I'm,
luxury subdivision?
I'm all right with the luxury subdivision because all those homes would be compatible with each other.
Right,
And so I'm a big favorite of the number 1 for the recommendation, something like that. Because I don't think we've come up with the solution yet to make the homes compatible within the existing area. So whoever came up with the recommendation 1, I like that, but I don't think this does it.
so,
But I understand your concern too,
so what we said,
but I won't be voting on this.
well, you might.
Yeah, if it's a 2-2 vote, if it's continued, then I will.
Exactly. If it's a 2-2 vote, then it's going to come back, we'll be setting a special, meeting to vote again, where, because with a tie, it doesn't happen, it just sits there. So, we would have to have another vote. If you vote to approve and it's a tie, it fails. If you
It
vote to
fails.
deny and it's a tie, it fails.
It
It
fails.
fails.
It
Fails
fails,
everything.
it fails if it's a tie.
So therefore,
And then somebody would have to bring it back in for the next ordinance.
so therefore, this is where I wanted to get a feel tonight as to whether this goes on the agenda next week or if it goes on a special meeting. For the 5 of us to vote, so we have 5 votes instead of 4. That's why I want to get a feeling for that tonight, because when you get back, if we need a special meeting, I'll set a special meeting for whenever you get back from your trip. Before July 12th, because July 12th is the deadline. This has to be voted on. As we said, and you guys, even though we're looking at this, and you guys are talking about, well, this doesn't affect, this doesn't address this issue, it doesn't address this issue, we made it clear that they can continue to work on this after sending us this, they can continue to work on the ordinance as they see fit. So they can continue working on it. This is not the end of it.
And that's what it says in the document, that they're continuing to work on it, right?
So I just want to make clear that when we vote for this, this is not
the end of it.
the end of it. It is not saying, okay, that's it, we're moving on to some other ordinances. They can continue to work on this. This topic is very, I won't say controversial, it's complex. It's
Cause every complaint that was there, that I was listening when I was listening to the complaints, they were all different.
Yeah,
And they were bringing up different parts of the ordinance, so they're not saying that the ordinance itself is horrible. They're just saying there's different components that need to be worked out, so
So-
yeah, complex is more than.
So I will agree, I thought the objection that a single septic tank with a maximum of 1,500 gallons is not doable if you have a bigger lot where you're gonna have a bigger house. I think that's totally rational, and that the size, the maximum size of a septic tank would depend, just like the square footage would depend on the size of the lot, so should a septic tank. And so I think that's totally reasonable. But that's something that can be worked on.
I have a question on page 3, letter C. It says, use of more than the maximum expected potential culinary water demand and septic saturation. What is that? What is the maximum expected potential culinary water demand and septic saturation?
The 3/4 inch line and the 1,500 gallon septic tank.
That they changed to 17 in the recommendation. 17.
Okay,
Yes, in the recommendation, yes.
if that's what that means, that was not clear to me.
Yeah, that's what that is.
Expected, okay, maximum expected.
Maximum, if
I think
use
that
of
wording should-
more than the maximum.
What's the maximum expected?
Do you feel like
We have
expected
1,500
isn't,
gallon septic tank.
do you feel like the word expected isn't not solid? It's saying that expected, not pointing out that it's the listed, like it's in here.
Says creates the danger of increased nitrates into the watershed.
Okay.
That's
This is
the
why-
issue.
I'm not being clear with you.
So,
Oh, so if you took out expected, though, that would still make.
Or put
it
listed,
make more sense.
Cause it's listed in
This
this
is more than
ordinance.
the maximum potential culinary water.
The third, 3/4 inch line. That's ran, that they mentioned in here. I think it might be better to reference those particular, right? That's what you're referencing.
Yeah.
okay, so I'll just say,
Get rid of that. I feel like I think, are you trying to say kind of that expected makes it like an arbitrary?
Like how much water
Exactly.
we use.
Or if we just put as listed in the standards or something like that. But I don't, do we even need that sentence, because it's
Yeah.
already set forth in the ordinance.
so all I'll say, if this gets voted down, within 2 weeks, we will have plan coming in for the 12,000 square foot homes. I don't want to hear a single objection from anybody about those homes. Those 12,000 square foot homes that don't belong. I don't want to hear a single objection from a single person, because this got voted down, knowing they're gonna come in within a week or two with their plans. That's all I'm gonna point out. I don't want to hear crap from anybody if this gets voted down.
If,
So,
if we proceed to a vote next,
a week from today,
yeah, well, yeah, on the 25th, we proceed to a vote. I mean, I like recommendation 1, but there's not enough time frame to make that amendment.
Mhm.
And I don't know how I would vote on this, as is, but I would suggest putting a sunset clause, whatever you vote on. This ordinance will remain in effect for 9 months.
I don't have a problem. That gives the planning commission 9 months to come up with something better.
It comes, no, so yeah, planning commission or the town council sending something down to them. But, I would not vote for this ordinance.
Without a sunset.
Without a sunset clause in it. I don't know if I would vote for it with a sunset clause in it, but I clearly would not vote for it without a sunset clause.
So why would you not vote for it even if it has a sunset?
Because my criteria has always been compatibility with the neighborhood.
Correct. I understand, because you and I have talked about that, about the compatibility. So if this, as I said, if this gets voted down, we're gonna have homes come in that are not compatible, and I don't wanna hear anything from anyone.
No, I understand that. I would have, I'm still going through all the testimony and trying to figure out how it all fits together.
Difficult task.
But I just wanted to make sure, if you do proceed to a vote,
I've got no problem putting a
I
sunset.
think it
clause
needs
in
a
there.
sunset clause, mainly because nobody trusts government, and the way you prevent this, if you do pass it, prevent it from lasting a long time, is it sunsets.
Okay,
And that forces everybody to work towards that.
and you told me what day you get back from your trip, and I don't.
I'll get back on the 29th.
So that gives us between the
That's,
29th and July the 12th to, have a special meeting. So the 5 of us are here. And then it doesn't have a tie.
So then that's the 4th of July.
Yes.
And then our work meeting's on the 11th. Right? Special meeting.
Or you have a special meeting at the work meeting.
No, well, yeah, that could be, but boy, that's cutting it close.
I don't know that anybody really brought up how they feel about having a 12,000 square foot home adjacent to their neighborhood.
Yeah. that's very
I don't know if I need to answer that. I've heard plenty of complaints with regard to the one that's being built right now that overlooks Zion White Bison.
Right.
I had multiple complaints about that. So I
Because of
know
its size? Or
Yes.
because of its use?
its size. But it is not compatible with that whole neighborhood. It just isn't.
Right, this 77.
And of course, the proposed use is also a complaint, but it's both. It's not just, it is not just the proposed use. If it was a house like what we're talking about here with that proposed use, I don't think there might be some objections, but not like this where they're like, are you kidding me? Look at the size of this thing. It doesn't belong. It just doesn't go. It's not compatible with the neighborhood, as you put it. All right. So back to, you're right, we could do, the work meeting, we could have that also as a special meeting to vote on, this, and it's the day before the deadline.
Or you could take the vote and renew the motion of the special meeting.
I'm sorry, do what?
I mean, it's up to you. I mean, you could proceed with the vote on next Tuesday, and then if that fails, you could always renew it or reconsider it.
In what way? You mean just have the town council reconsider it?
Yeah,
Yes,
no, you just reconsider your vote.
okay,
I mean, but it may depend what comes out of that. You may end up with it may end up passing 3-1, or it may end up failing 1-3. Or it may go 2-2, and then you may decide if it's worth it or not worth it. It's up to you, but you set the agenda, so,
no, I want the 5 of us to vote on it. If it is going to be a tie vote, then I want the 5 of us to vote so that it has a
So I
fair,
guess it's up to-
shot.
I guess it's up to the 3 of you whether you want it next week, or you wanna wait till a later time to vote on.
Cause I can put it on, I cannot even put it on the agenda next week, cause everything, as I told you guys before, when we do a work meeting, what I have on the agenda for the work meeting, all we're talking about is the things that are going to be on the agenda for the regular meeting. This is the agenda, except for, item G, which did not go on here, which is Cole's, um, capital improvements plan, amendment, which is already on the,
It's already been noticed.
it's already been noticed, so it will be on the agenda. It's the only thing that's not on here that will be on the agenda. Is the capital improvements plan amendment.
Yeah, we probably should have a special meeting with Paul in attendance.
I'm fine with that. That's the intention, and you want to have all five of us vote on it, so it has a fair shot. That's.
Yes. So the 29th is a Saturday, and then we come up with the 4th of July, so, I'll put it on for a vote for July 11th. Nothing like cutting it close. I do not like cutting things close like that. Okay, so I'm gonna put that we're going to do this on July 11th.
At the work meeting.
Be a special meeting.
Yeah, well, I'll have a
And our
special
meeting.
meeting, I have a special meeting right before, and then we'll do the work meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, the special meeting will probably take 15 minutes.
Right.
And then we'll go on to the work meeting. But I'm gonna reiterate again,
I think
For
with
probably
the
the
sunset
third
clause,
time.
it makes it a little bit easier to vote.
what,
With a sunset clause,
it'll make it easier to vote, yes.
Favor, because it still gives.
Because then
us
it's,
options, and it, I mean, I think it was important for the planning commission to listen to the public. Because how many times have I stood on the other side of that podium and talked to planning and zoning, and I got the feeling that they never listened. You know, never. And so, you get, suspicious of the government, for one, and you feel like you're not being listened to, which is not what we want in our town.
And I hate to see a lot of effort go into something and it just.
Right.
But I don't feel like it'll fizzle. I feel like this is an ordinance that some of the things could potentially.
I do too, I really like this new one, but I still see
Some of the things
issues.
are still, I feel like they're still pushing an issue.
But I will say
feel like there
this.
are some-
So there's progress, and
Right.
that's.
so here's what, is the case in Springdale, because I was talking to the mayor there, and she mentioned that they have size limits, and I was like, oh, really, what are your size limits? Their size limits are 3,500 square feet, and you can go up to 5,000 if you comply with their design guidelines. And so that's how they get people to comply with their design guidelines, because you can't mandate that everybody comply with design guidelines, because the state code has said, nope, you can't put those in place. But they say, you can build a house, but if you wanna go bigger than that, then you will comply with our design.
Is there's town-wide, it's not specific to certain areas or neighborhoods.
It is townwide. And I was like, I like that idea, because we use, you don't, I understand, but, I liked the idea that they got people to comply with their design guidelines, and they got to have bigger houses, but still the maximum is 5,000. And none of this is 10 or 11, 12,000 square foot homes.
But Anasazi, is that not in town limit?
It is. They don't have, their houses are really not as big as you think they are. So, I've been up there and visited a number of people up there, and their houses are not as big as they look like from the outside, because sometimes there's like a courtyard and this, that, and the other.
Yeah, I don't know, I've been on.
Okay, so, All right, so I'm going to do this special meeting on July 11th for the vote on, this ordinance. And I will, propose a sunset clause. And I do not consider that near enough of a change that it has to go back for public hearing, because there's not enough time for it anyway. For public hearing.
Sunset clause just means the ordinance is no longer in effect.
Right.
It's
It
not
doesn't change
standard
this.
change, it just ends.
It just
Yes, yes.
You know, that's another thing, it was the best time to get our groundwater management plan, and then we can have some more scientific information about what we should be allowed with the septic system.
So what I'll do then, as we come up with a sunset clause, I will talk with, Sunrise and get a better idea from them about when they think they'll be able to give us some guidance, what they think is coming out of that
And talk with
groundwater
Keith,
protection.
talk with Keith, because what we're dealing with is a temporary ordinance, and now then we enact an ordinance with the sunset clause.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I
You can
understand.
kind of see where the potential issue is.
Yes, Brian.
Oh, I was gonna say, I did think about that, so,
Okay.
And what do you say?
the permanent room is better, that's why we dropped, that's why we didn't recommend it, we hadn't been into, but after talking to Keith, he said, I did not ask his reason, he recommended that it be not replace an emergency ordinance with a temporary ordinance.
I remember him saying something about that when we did the emergency.
Well, there is code that says that limits what you can
6
do.
months. and
Yeah.
You can't renew it.
And you can't renew it, and you can't get around it by doing this other thing. And so I can see where Heath is coming from when he says that. Because it sounds like, trying to get away from, around the prohibition of
Well, I don't know.
renewing a temporary
Yeah,
ordinance.
maybe. Yeah. I mean, it's a Hobson choice. I mean, for the citizens, you just do a sunset clause, or otherwise you approve it and then you eventually amend it, so.
Right, that was the other thing, is we approve it, and then,
So I think it's probably defensible, but, check with them.
he'll be at the meeting on Tuesday, we can ask.
Before we go on, I was waiting for Misty to get here because, we had a rules of decorum and civility were violated recently. And I think it's one that I have to address up here. And our new rules of decorum and civility, 3.08.030, we haven't, it's not on the website,
Oh, I haven't put it in yet?
no.
Okay,
But it provides that town officials and town employees should promote adherence to these rules at all times. So that's what I'm doing, and this is addressing, unfortunately, I won't be here, and our biggest audience of citizens is probably our regular meeting, but this is to the community as a whole, that under 3.08.05F provides that all members of the public communicating or interacting with town officials and or town employees shall refrain from personal charges or verbal attacks upon the character of the town officials. And we recently had a breach where the technique was to take a rumor and take a statement and turn it into a question. And after the last meeting, individual came up to the mayor, and then the next day there was reports of individuals calling in to the clerk indicating that in a question form, does council member Louis, is he having an affair with another council member? Now, that is inappropriate, that creates problems and is hurtful to individuals in general, but more concerning to me, first of all, it's defamatory. it's slanderous, it's something that shouldn't be even asked in the form of a question, which is what we do these days in public. We put it in the form of a question and we can defend ourselves saying, I didn't really say that, I was asking a question. But what concerns me more to the community is it discourages qualified individuals from wanting to run for office if they have to put up with those type of inquiries and those type of questions. It is clearly a violation of our rules of civility and decorum. So I'd ask the community, hopefully somebody's listening and will pass it on. If they hear that, the answer is not true. I'm not having an affair with any of the council members. And that they should stop that conduct and stop that type of rumor, that type of statement, and hopefully they'll ask the person not to pass it on and to discontinue that. Because the harmful effect is you will not get qualified people running for office. And it was hard to get qualified people this time, and I'm thankful we did. But I can see the chilling effect that will have.
So thinking about what you just said, I would say 95% of the town wasn't aware that we passed that code of conduct. What if I write something in the newsletter, this next newsletter that says, by the way, we adopted this code of conduct, and here's this little section about townspeople and their, because that's what you were referring to when you were.
There are a couple sections in there about country people.
Yeah, so what if I put something in the newsletter, because I'll bet that the bulk of the people in town have no idea that we even adopted that, whether it's on the code, whether it's online on the Unicode or not, they wouldn't know.
I think that's good. I think to have a copy here available at the desk would be good and binder. I think doing the newsletter, irrespective of whether we had that rules of decorum and civility or not, that I would be making the same statement anyway,
Okay.
irrespective of whether we have these rules in place, because it is wrong to do that.
Then I'll put,
And it creates a chilling effect that's gonna affect the town.
okay,
Because
then I'll do something in the
Yeah.
newsletter.
So I talked to numerous people that I think would have been really qualified to run, for office, and
No,
And if rumors like this got out and continued on, I think you would see less and less people running for office. Fortunately, we had good candidates with Bell and with April and with Marcy and with Kent. But I know that they probably weighed that decision very carefully before they decided to apply. And with Gene, I didn't mean to exclude Gene, but Gene was already on the council.
I wasn't at the April meeting when the code of conduct was voted on and adopted, but prior to that, when it was first brought up and proposed by Keith, when he brought it to us in March, I think it was, I had suggested that if this got adopted, that the personnel manual in the section under code of conduct be amended just to cite that this ordinance exists and that employees are expected to adhere to it as well, because it does cover employees. But I just thought it'd be good to have the personnel manual reference this as well. But I mean, it's what's done is done, but if the amendments come up for a personnel manual at some point.
Mayor, thank you for letting me hijack the meeting for me.
okay, I'm sorry, when you brought this up, I was like, I can't believe you're bringing this up.
I had to, and I would have brought it up at the beginning of the meeting, but I thought it was something that all five council people had to be here to hear.
Okay, all right, so, so that's item C, my goodness, we've been here 2.5 hours.
I figured you were gonna move on.
Yeah, I was. So, the next issue, item D, are planning commission issues. And so I printed off for everybody where you've got your thing that says D. I highlighted the section that says the Virgin Town Council may appoint a representative among its members to act as liaison between town council and planning commission. Now, when I first got appointed to town council in 2013, Lee Ballard was the liaison with planning commission, between town council and planning commission. Then when she left town council, I was the liaison between town council and planning commission. Then when I left town council, Leroy was the liaison. And then Gene became the liaison when he became zoning administrator. So as long as I've lived here, there has been a liaison between the town council and planning commission. And at the beginning of this year, I didn't appoint a liaison between town council and planning commission, and to be honest, I hadn't even thought about it. But I think we need a liaison between town council and planning commission, and so I want us, and I went back through the index of all the invoices, ordinances and resolutions, and I never found a resolution where the liaison was appointed. Do you remember ever doing a resolution for that? I cannot find one. I think they just voted on it.
I think
at town council.
I think it was just, they did it in a.
They're like, hey, do you wanna be the liaison? Sure, okay.
I think
Yeah.
there's items, because I think Kevin was,
They talked about it, they did it in a meeting and they made a vote, they just didn't do.
Do a resolution.
exactly.
I give it kind of a, we're gonna do this, it's written in the things, here's the liaison. That's
What,
what I
what
would
is the
say.
what does the council members liaison do? Sorry.
The liaison, it's interesting because, the liaison is supposed to, convey to planning commissioners what the town council's issues are. And then when we have a town council meeting, the liaison then is supposed to tell the town council what the planning commission's issues are and what's going on, and kind of even almost give a report as to what's going on with the planning commission. But they explain, they facilitate the working between the two groups so that they will make sure that the ordinances that the town council would like to get through, and then tell the town council what planning commission is concerned about. And so, that's what they always did.
Isn't that what the zoning administrator should be doing?
When he became zoning administrator.
When he
just did that.
became, well, one of the things that
That's
is,
what I understand.
but we will be looking at the zoning administrator's duties. We will be going through that section of the code. We're just not doing that yet.
Oh,
But I don't want, this
And-
says
and I see
in
what that-
addition to
I
the
missed
zoning
that
administrator.
highlighted,
Yeah,
I missed that highlighted
yeah.
language that
In
says
addition
in
to.
addition to the zoning.
Oh, that's why it was filling both of those directors. Both of
He
those.
was doing both jobs instead, and so, we need someone from town council. I would like someone from town council to be the liaison. And it can't be me.
I
So
don't know what the time commitment is, but
it's attending the planning commission meetings. On Wednesday nights, attending their meetings and just, advising what,
It's, we need to stay neutral, it's just passing information, it's not
correct.
necessarily, the instruction comes when we're sitting here. And we say, this is what we want, that person writes it down and instructs.
This is what the town
This
council.
is the overall recommendations of the bullet points, not, these are my feelings, it's.
Correct. You can't get up and say, I think this, I think that, it's the town council who sets the town council.
Dot one, dot two, dot
Yes.
three,
Yes,
not.
not
Just
me,
mess
me,
things
me,
up
me.
if it
Yeah.
becomes somebody tries to. put it out.
And then I highlighted the thing that said the term of office, is, it has, he or shall correspond to his or her tenure as office on the town council, but I'm not sure I liked that in there, we might wanna change that, because somebody could easily say, you know what, I don't wanna do this anymore, and we appoint somebody else. And so I don't think it's required that it be the same with the term of, a person's serving on the council.
It actually might be better to have it rotating a little bit because someone always has a certain perspective.
That's a good
It
idea,
might be a bad idea to have people.
rotate.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I highlighted this because I wanted you guys to see that this is what it said, and I didn't necessarily agree with it. I think we could change that.
Or you could just have each of us take a month and rotate through.
So we need to have, I want a liaison, we can decide how it's gonna work, and then we'll,
I don't think that it would work for a month, just
I think it has to be longer than.
because it's someone that's gonna be going and the ordinance may take longer than a month to process. And you can give the bullet points of
Yeah.
those ordinances, because if we're attending and talking to planning and zoning commission, the person needs to be well involved. So that they can just feed the information.
Yeah, because otherwise
They'll
it's
have to know
changing.
backstory in order to give the information on the
Yeah.
ordinance in 1 month.
Yeah, that's a good point, I understand.
I'd like to know what the planning commission's, idea of a liaison is and what they would do for them, as well as the town council's
Okay,
perspective of what the person does.
okay, well, we can ask them, but as I pointed out, until this past 6 months, there's been a liaison always,
So do you want to
until
put it in,
6
do you
months.
want to temporarily give one of us the assignment until we can work through it? And then
Yes.
give out duties for them?
Yes,
I mean, you say that on the council there hasn't been, but the zoning administrator should have been fulfilling
He
it.
was
That was never taken away from him, was it?
it says here, the town council may, in addition to the zoning administrator, appoint a representative to serve
Okay,
as
so he
liaison.
can appoint.
No, the zoning administrator is not necessarily the liaison. They're
Saying
two
he's
different
he's
people.
supposed to go.
The zoning administrator
He's still gonna go to the meeting, but we can put somebody from the town council in there
Yeah,
to do.
I don't
it.
think he really attends this planning and zoning meetings, does he? Has
Um,
he already been coming?
he used
this?
to.
He doesn't feel much anymore, no, I haven't seen him, we've seen him at one meeting this year.
One meeting so far.
So if we could do.
I think
Yes.
Marcy would be great.
With me?
Yeah.
I said I can't commit to some meetings.
Oh, you can, because you're. Oh,
That's just too much.
Yes, Bronwyn?
What if they just came to our work meeting, is that?
No, it needs to be, it needs to be the meeting to make sure
The
that
regular meeting.
that the ordinance that gets through. And if they're just at the word meeting, that's not making sure that the ordinance gets through. That's just.
I would understand where.
Well, that it's on the agenda, that it gets, that it moves along.
They're not
And
gonna say
progress-
anything in your meetings, they're not supposed to. They're just supposed to report back that says, so if, for instance, if April or I were the one, because we watched the last planning and zoning meeting, we would have given basically the same information that you gave. We would have said, okay, the ordinance that we've been working on for however many months we've been working on this ordinance, they got this far. These were the complaints of the public. These were the complaints, these were not the complaints, but these were the statements of the public. These were the statements of them, and they just summarized what y'all did. And then if we're sitting here talking and we're having a conversation and we were saying, okay, we don't want 1,500 as the limit for the septic tank, we want 1,750. That would be something that that the person would send to you as a communication.
But it's more than that, it's, if the planning commission is sitting there going, why did the town council do blah, blah, blah?
We
Well,
can stand up and
you
say,
stand up and
here's
tell
our
it.
bullet points
Here's
right
why.
here. This is why.
So I don't, whatever you want to say about, but I think it's important that we have a paper trail, like what comes from you guys, and you send us, a request for action. And then we send recommendations back, and then you have that process set, everyone is liaison, that's great, I mean, it's always great to have people who ask questions to, you know, and find out, but I just don't want it to replace the paper trail.
No, it's
It does not
to
replace the paper trail, but I want a liaison. And then this past week, even while I was on vacation, I attended, the local administrative advisor that is this program that helps towns that don't have a town manager. He had a lunch Zoom meeting, and there were people from the 5 counties that all sorts of towns that don't have town managers that were all there. And the whole topic was planning commission and the relationship between planning commission and town council. And they said, if you don't have a liaison, get a liaison, appoint a liaison. I was like, what? We've always had a liaison. Why didn't I appoint a liaison in January? But I didn't do it because Jean's term was up. And it never crossed my mind about reappointing a new liaison, so we need to get a liaison. So, it can't be me, Marcy said not her, so, April or Misty, I know Misty, you have some issues with, how many meetings you can possibly attend during a week when
Well,
you've
it's
got
not
the
every
kid.
work meeting, I'm just concerned if they want us to go to work meetings, there's multiple work meetings, I can't do that.
Oh, no,
I
well.
can do one regular meeting.
Well, this is why I also have on here that we're gonna review the P and Z ordinance in the town code, this thing, and then also review the meeting procedures. That's all one big lump thing about
If it's-
planning
If
commission.
it's just liaising, then I could, but April,
I just don't think I can really,
I don't honestly don't want to be in Paul,
I'm already on the fire board,
I'll do it.
but I would.
this would be great.
I
If you
can do the bullet point and the spreadsheet
And
that you
if-
want,
And I can
Hang on,
always substitute if you need to,
yeah.
but.
Well, any of you could, honestly, I can just call, and ask somebody to go if I can. Only time it would be a problem is if my daughter's sick. Cause I wanna be there and take, someone taking care of her.
I'm sorry. I sent this thing, I have to tell you guys, I sent this thing to type up what we're saying. And so that we can do some minutes later. And a minute ago, it put, I just started drinking. And then it erased it. I started laughing, because I was like, you just started drinking? What are you talking about? And I don't know where it got that. But all of a sudden, it deleted it. And I was like, well, okay then.
Oh, that's funny.
That's why I was laughing. I was like, okay. Yeah, AI, exactly. Okay, so I had, one of the things that was suggested in this, Zoom call that I did with where we were talking about planning commission, is they said that they thought it was, in the town's best interest every year to review what's in their code about the planning commission. So just like we're saying that the liaison, we don't like this saying that shall just correspond with the tenure of office, so we could propose changes there to make it some kind of a rotation that you guys had proposed. And the other thing that they recommended, not this D, where it says planning commission shall elect its chairperson from within the planning commission. They recommended that not be the case, that the town council appoint the chairman. And then on the next one, where, and I checked around with other towns and they're like, no, we appoint the chairman. And then also this, F, under rules of procedures, where it says the town planning commission may adopt, such rules and regulations that it wants for running its meeting. I've also been advised that, town councils generally will set the rules, not let the planning commission set their own rules for how they want to do the meeting. So I just want to bring all of that up as a result. In fact, that's when I added this to the agenda, was after I sat through that, conference. It's like, oh, okay. So, I've got a note here that we want to change this, liaison to maybe be on a rotating basis. And then I wanted us to decide whether or not we want to make the change to D and F. in this. The rest of it seemed fine with me.
So why do they want the town council to appoint the chair?
So that you make sure that the planning commission works with the town council.
Oh,
To avoid personality conflicts?
No, it wasn't personality conflicts, but their deal was, at the town council has things they want to do.
Right.
And they need a planning commission that's gonna work with them. And that the town council should appoint the chairman. And, that otherwise the planning commission becomes this little, entity that is unto itself. And is not working in the interest of the town, and you need to make sure that they're working together. And that's what he was talking about in this, webinar.
Could we do away with the two alternates too?
Yeah, we can.
But I mean, if you're amending this, my suggestion would be do away with the two alternates.
Okay, I'll make a note of
where's
that.
that?
That is halfway down the first paragraph.
Oh,
Are you wanting this to,
This is not for next week.
right?
No, this is one.
This, well, this
Oh,
has,
well,
to-
this will have to go to public hearing anyway.
Yeah.
this has to go to planning and
I'd
so.
like us to
Yeah.
review this.
Yeah.
Your goal tonight was to find a liaison and then review this, right?
Correct.
For
Correct.
us to bring our changes to our
Yeah.
next work meeting.
Yes, and this is the only thing that was on this, agenda tonight that will not be, actually,
Just the
ordinance
appointment.
2024-09 is not gonna be on the agenda on the 25th, because it's going to a special meeting. This thing about planning commission issues, you can circle that whole section D, other than number one about a liaison. The rest of it, we can work on. But one of the things that I had, this is something for us to all think about with regard to the town code, Boo. I was talking with Lee, because she was on the planning town council for so long, and had so much input on ordinances and so much stuff that's in Boo. And I asked her about some of the stuff that's in Boo. Why is this in Boo? Why is this not in, the municipal code? And she answered with exactly what I thought was more than likely going to be the answer, which was, back then, they thought Hulu was the only code. And they were trying to cram things in and make it fit into Hulu where it really didn't belong, but they didn't understand.
It's
And I
its
understand that.
own, it's its own title, yeah.
Yeah, and so there's many things that are in Hulu that need to come out and be put in a different code. Because when you look at the Unicode, once we go to Unicode next, and you look at the way the title of this, title 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there are so many codes that the other towns have, and we don't have anything like the building code and the safety code and the this code. We don't have anything like that, but they're all kind of stuck in Hulu in various places. So there's all kind of stuff that need to come out, but every single one of those is gonna require a public hearing at the planning commission because of the fact that it's in Hulu.
I view Hulu as just a separate title of municipal code, we just call it Hulu.
Well, I agree with you, but when you look at the Unicode next, everybody, every single one, whether they have it
Right.
Title 10, Title 11, Title 12,
Every
land use
community-
code
yeah.
is the very last
Yeah.
title. They have everything else and then land use.
Yeah. Speaking of rules of procedure, when are we gonna do ours?
I will put it on, you wanted it for a meeting when we're all together, that's what you told me the other day.
So July?
And I could put it on for July, I could put it on that work meeting that
Put it
we're
on.
going to be there.
Since we're
But
all-
I felt that, even though you told me if we were making some changes to the meeting procedures for the planning commission, you wanted us to do town council first, I'm like, why?
Because we should get our
Who
own
cares?
rules in order before we make rules for planning commission.
So,
You get your own house in order before you dictate something else down. That's just my philosophy.
well, when we get to that, oh my God. I have no idea.
Should we just discuss?
You know how I said, I started reading?
But with this, I don't know if we can actually do the rules of procedure for the planning commission because the way this is written, they have to create their own rules until we take it away from them.
Correct, and so therefore, that's
Therefore,
why.
we're gonna get our own house in order.
No, I mean, we have to,
And then,
amend chapter 4.
yeah, yeah, so
Before,
we can't,
before you can do that.
so we can't make rules until we've gone through that process.
Correct.
And I want to hear what the planning commission has to say. I want to hear what their recommendations are when we submit it down.
So one of the reasons this liaison, so one of the reasons this liaison is gonna be important. Okay, so what's coming up? We are required by the contract adjoining the regional water supply agreement. We are required to adopt conservation standards. They're conservation standards. We have to get that done by September 30th. So it's gotta go on the July agenda for planning commission to talk about. They're gonna have a public hearing in August and get it to us, and we can vote for it in September so that we meet the September 30th deadline, or we're not in the water supply agreement.
Do we have the ordinance already?
No,
Who's doing the work? The water?
no, I have to, what I'm gonna be doing is, all the other towns have adopted it. And so all, in fact, they mentioned at one of the meetings, the last meeting I was at, that people in Hurricane were so upset by these new conservation standards and how controversial it was. And so, I just need to look and see what the different towns, because they've all adopted it. Now it's up to us in order to join, that we have to adopt these conservation standards. And so I'll just look and see what the other towns do.
Well, I think I read an article too, that Hurricane at some point hadn't adopted them yet.
They
And
have.
somebody applied for.
Oh, yes, yes.
The lawn rebate,
Uh-huh.
and I don't think they got it, because Hurricane had never done their ordinance and.
They have now, because they just, at the
Yeah, I
last
think
meeting,
so,
they said
yeah.
it, they've done it.
But,
So why don't we, at our July meeting, make our formal request, vote on it and pass it, they just make their plan.
But this is the type of thing where the liaison will make sure, we've got a deadline, we gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, make sure it gets done, and it gets to town council by this date.
So
Then with the
they have those conservation, it's already listed what they require, right? And it.
But he's asking if I've written the ordinance yet. I said, no, I have not written
They're
the
not that
ordinance.
strict, really.
Well, apparently what happened at the last Water Conservancy District meeting that I was at, Hurricane's mayor asked if they could, give somebody a variance. And the people were there at the meeting, and did a presentation on why they were wanting a variance. So they were this, company that did, water features. And so they wanted to do this, their whole business was doing water features, and this was going to impact their business. And so they came in and they were asking for a variance, and so the mayor came in to the Water Conservancy District and said, can I give them a variance? And they're like, no. So, wow, okay. So, I have not, I had, the guy who's in charge of the conservation standards has sent me a copy, but I haven't sat down and studied them with anything. But then we also have the subdivision ordinance that I've given Sunrise a deadline of October 31st to get us the ordinance. And then it has got to go for a public hearing and then November planning commission meeting, and then to us to vote for December, because there's a deadline in December that we have to meet in order to pass that subdivision. We're required to meet that deadline by state code. So this is the type of things that I'm talking about. So we've got a copy of the contract that shows we are required to adopt these conservation standards by September 30th. So, and then the state code says we're required to adopt this new subdivision ordinance by December 31st. So there has to be a procedure.
So Ron, are you the planning commission's liaison to the town council?
Yes, so.
Okay, So that, we're gonna just work on, for future. But we need a liaison for now. So it sounds like it's down to Misty in April to flip a coin.
I thought that Steve was gonna.
Yeah, she said she couldn't do
Okay, so you're gonna do it? Okay.
it. I can always watch it from.
You-
And
That's what I do.
I can send comments, if they open my comments, I can send a comment. If they ask me a direct question, I can
If you're
send a
a
comment,
participant.
if I'm a participant, then I can just mute my thing, so I don't talk, like just type a comment into you.
Okay.
And Crystal can do that, or whoever is speaking.
Okay.
If that happens, I don't.
Okay, so the next item was the complaint procedure. Paul, you were reviewing this recently and didn't like the complaint procedure, said you wanted to work on changing our complaint procedure, because you had reviewed it based on a complaint that we got, and you're like, oh my gosh, this ordinance, this complaint procedure
Well,
sucks.
let me tell you, and maybe we need to do a work session on that later. But the two things, one is the form, and you look at the form, it's not accurate.
You mean the complaint
The
form?
complaint form.
There is.
Yeah,
It's on, we have a copy of it,
the-
but it's
On
on
the website,
yeah, but the complaint form says it's a violation of the Sixth Amendment if you have to sign this because you need to have a witness, and that therefore, based on the Sixth Amendment, that's not true. Sixth Amendment it says, your name will be disclosed upon request, that John will disclose your name as there's a constitutional right to confront the accuser. But yes, there's a constitutional right to confront the accuser if you're in the criminal
Yeah, I was gonna
court.
say,
And the case has been filed and you're gonna be a witness in the accuser, yes, but you don't have to on just filing the complaint form. It's whether you go to the criminal action. But more than that, what raised the issue is we have a lot of people in neighborhoods that look at this complaint form and they won't file a complaint because one, it's too complicated, they don't understand it, and again, they don't want to be the one to knock on their neighbor should that happen, and we need to figure out a whole different way of doing stuff.
I agree.
And what we probably should do is get the code enforcement officer in, hired, and then work with the code enforcement officer to come up with a new procedure.
Okay.
That would be my suggestion.
I brought this up when we had our joint meeting with the planning commission.
About the complaint procedure?
The level 2.22, and also I think it's just, it seems really outdated, and there's a lot of responsibility on the clerk. Or it's not really clear if it's the clerk's responsibility, and I don't think that's fair to whoever the clerk is.
I was gonna do a flow chart and then I got bogged down in trying to figure out how it would work.
Do you think that there should be levels, different levels of complaints? So like ones that particularly the clerk could handle, or ones that need to be elevated, because I don't feel like every complaint should have to come forward to the council. I feel like that should be something that between the code enforcement officer and the clerk, and the mayor should be able to determine what level of complaint it is.
Well, and right now, the standard is, we don't enforce complaints unless somebody submits a written complaint. That should not be the standard. There's a violation, then our code enforcement should go out there whether there is a complaint or not. Whether he proceeds with enforcement action may depend on someone willing to proceed. But he should be enforcing that complaint if he has knowledge. We shouldn't allow, just because we have a violation at this place, we're gonna let the violation go because nobody will sign a complaint. And that's where we're at now.
But it
Right,
also
because-
needs to be, we do need anonymity where people can
Yes.
do this anonymously. However, at some point, that anonymity, they need to be willing to stand up, because there is some complaints, that's what I'm saying about the
But
level.
there,
There
yeah,
are some
at some
complaints
point,
that need more
Yes.
action than
But-
other.
but sometimes you can look and see that it's a clear violation and you don't need that person
Right,
to testify.
right.
And we should be enforcing those.
Well, that's where that's where the levels come in, of can the clerk,
Yeah.
can the clerk handle this one? Yeah,
yeah.
good. Can the code enforcement officer handle it? Good. Can the mayor write a letter, request, handle it, and then it's elevated to town council from there. They're just-
Yeah, so for example, recently we had somebody come in with a complaint. And, Jean and I both sat down with her and Crystal, all four of us sat down and went over her complaint in detail. And ultimately, what we did is we called James Weeks and had him draft a letter that we could go and serve these people with. And so that one took quite a bit of discussion as to how we wanted to handle it. And so we've got the letter from from our prosecutor to go serve them. And we have, Jean would like to have like a sheriff's office, a deputy with him or something like that, but he doesn't want to serve it without protection.
In some cases, that may be necessary, depending on the.
That's why I'm saying there's different levels and different complaints and different situations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a complaint
I've always
today.
felt like this is too basic.
Yes, it is.
Generalized, it's way too basic. Cause I mean, you know, you can complain about somebody's light at their house. And yes, it's a clear code enforcement violation, so the code enforcement officer can just go over and say, hey, that light needs to be fixed. We did have, the reason for my stop was we did have a question about your light. So it's a softer thing instead of going, you know, but then the next level, it's more of a,
Yeah, and I know, well, I've seen complaints you guys have too, and I sit here and go, is somebody addressing this? Does anybody reply to this person? Is this person being ignored? Who is handling this? Well, and I'm sitting here, I don't want this person to be just hung out to dry, and so who do I forward this to? And at what point does it come to the council? When does it go on an agenda as a meeting item, work meeting or regular? And so that's been a little bit of my frustration. I'm worried the public is not
Yeah.
being listened.
Well, I got one neighborhood, they have 3 neighbors that have talked to me, but none of them want to file a complaint.
And you're talking about your neighbor.
No,
This neighborhood that was where you and I started talking about this, because we got complaints and nobody wants to file a complaint. They gave us verbal complaints, but nobody wants to fill out a
So
complaint.
do we know what the fear is? Is there some way to?
No.
it's not anonymity. They want anonymity, and this has been a struggle since even I was in the clerk's office, that people want anonymity. And then the crux in that is that at some point, they have to be willing to stand up and say, yeah, I'm the one that,
unless the complaint is
On a
so
certain level.
obvious.
right.
Yeah, if it's so obvious, why do you need to file,
The
I,
levels.
you and I are talking about the same
We're talking
thing,
the same language, we
Yeah.
really are, honestly,
Yeah.
like all of us are.
Yeah,
we're talking to the
we're
circuit.
kind of on the same page.
So we need to redo this. When do you want it on?
I know. Well, I put it on the agenda so we could talk about it because Paul had said he wanted to work on revising this, which is fine with me. I think we need to.
July or August,
We're doing, but I think you're
What's
right
that?
that,
July or August.
I would say August. I think that you're right that we should have the code enforcement officer to review things and go over with. And so I need to get him hired and then, we can start working with that.
he should be involved in the development of that one,
Right.
Yes,
or she,
or she.
or she.
Yeah, inclusive.
But yes, I got a complaint today that, I'm trying to figure out the best way to. I talked to Jean and figure out the best way to proceed on that.
Sometimes it just takes a conversation, other times it takes more.
This one is gonna take more because of who it is. It's like, oh, that person, great. Okay. Okay, so, moving on, then we have these 2 ordinances from planning commission that we got last month, and I did not put them on the agenda, and I would like to put them on this agenda. And, oh, I meant to print this out and put this in here, and I forgot to do it. This is an amendment. This first one about the sign ordinance, sign regulations, is an amendment to the ordinance we already passed about the billboards. And this is an amendment to it. And I meant to print out the previous ordinance so we can put them side by side and see what the differences are. And I forgot to print out the previous ordinance so that we could compare them side by side. But I think. I'm not sure if you look at this sign ordinance where we talked about the grandfathered use. I'm not sure if we want to use those words or if we want to remove them. Because we talked about it being a legally non-conforming sign, which is the proper legal term. I'm just not sure if we want grandfathered in there, just because of things that people get upset with that term. So I just don't know if we want that term there.
It's a non-conforming use.
Yes, it says deemed a legally non-conforming sign, and we should say use.
Why would we need to put grandfather? I think that's such an open term.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I just said, a lot of people don't like the term.
Let's,
So we
I
could
think you
just
should
say-
say thus, not to put that, because like Paul just said, it says deemed a legally non-conforming sign.
And I think, but we might
don't
need to,
need the word.
I think it just opens this up to more scrutiny where you don't need that.
okay, and do we want it deemed a legally non-conforming sign, or do we want it a legally non-conforming use?
It's a not, it's a,
It's a legally non-conforming use, I believe.
Do you put use slash sign?
no,
Sign
it's
slash use.
it's a legal.
It's a sign, because we don't have one. That's-
only
I know it's a
sign.
sign.
So it's not a use.
You don't wanna say it's a use, because then anything that's used is similar.
So,
You want.
Because that one, there's a reason that they get to have that one particular sign.
One sign, and there's something that is the concept level.
There's a legal reason they get to have that sign.
it's a non, well, it's a non-conforming sign, it's the use of the property, and if we allow a sign on that property, that's what we've been saying, is non-conforming use means you cannot use that piece of property for a sign. So,
We'll leave the word sign. Okay.
I think it's non-conforming sign, I think that was the intent, right?
That's good.
I love that.
Okay, the rest of it was fine, it was mainly those terms I was worried about, the rest of it's fine. As far as I'm concerned.
So when we get this on our agenda, is it gonna be PZ 24A
No.
or is it gonna be?
It's gonna be 2024, it's gonna be 2024 something.
Okay,
Yeah, it's not gonna be that. Yeah. Okay, and then the next was, did I forget to print out the master transportation? Oh, it's underneath it. Okay. It's on the same,
It's on that. Once you get to.
once you get through the sign ordinance, it's on the same paper clip.
oh, it's on the same. it's not-
Yeah, it's in the same paper.
Not even happening.
So everything I have seen on this master transportation plan of August 2023 says it is a draft plan.
I have asked them to please send me something that doesn't say the word draft, and they're like, that's the final plan. I'm like, it says draft. And they're like, that's the plan. I'm like, okay, they said, if we want us to send you the final plan, it's gonna be that. I'm like, okay,
So what you have to do is then tell them.
that's what they told me. I've
Send
been
it to
asking.
us without the word draft on it.
Or just add final draft to it.
No, their word,
We don't find it.
it should say final. Get rid of the word draft, it should just say.
Or it should, yeah, it should say final, or it should just come in without any descriptive.
Yeah, the title on the email,
The title says draft, and I,
the title says draft, but I think there's somewhere where it says final
So,
plan, but
simple.
not within the document, it's like.
we've asked them more than once,
Well,
they want
please,
Well, I'll
send
tell
us
you what,
something that says
we'll-
final.
We'll allow the draft on there if we can get around it out of here, I'll hope for that.
Oh.
Do an exchange.
Okay, so this is adopting the master transportation plan,
With exceptions. Right, we'll do that,
Yeah, it's just the highway corridor, correct?
it's just the highway,
Well-
yes, it's not any of the side roads. What are you saying well about?
So, yeah, I guess that's true.
What is item, well, it says C is twice, it should be D. As redacted and included herewith as attachment 1, there is no attachment 1. What's attachment 1? It's, see how there's A, B, C, and then C again? That second C should be a D.
No, I'd like to see it.
Yeah, as redacted and included here with as attachment one. I think I see,
That's one.
but we need an attachment one.
Mhm.
Can we, how can we make it clear to some of our public that it is just the highway, not the side streets?
You could
Because that's
describe,
a big concern, I've got calls
you
about
can
it,
describe it as transportation for SL9.
highway master transportation.
Yeah,
plan
or,
instead.
or transportation
Can we
plan
word
for
it that
highway
way?
or something.
I think we should put, it is, because I've had a lot of people call and they're like, no.
That's
no,
a
that's
great
just
change.
the highway."
So
You could
we
do it
want
on,
to add,
Yeah.
on the resolution.
Just add the word highway,
hold on, let me see.
anything that anybody's gonna do.
Well, I think where they're saying here, excluding, where they're excluding these figures 6, 11, 12, 13, 15, and then table 6. Those are the side roads. And so they're saying, we're adopting it excluding these things,
Right.
which are
Right,
all
and
the side roads.
we understand that,
Okay,
but I would like to make it very obvious to our
You
public.
just put it in the title, yeah.
In the title of what we advertise it for, just to say, this is the highway only master transportation plan.
okay, I'm trying to figure out where we would do that.
Just our advertising. I mean, we're telling people now, but not everybody listens on the thing, most of them just go read to see what's on there, and if it's in our advertising, like on the agenda, we could put highway only.
Okay.
And we could put it in whatever we put out. Cause doesn't this have to have, did we already do a public hearing on this?
Yeah, they did.
So I just think in our advertising and the way we word it, just put highway only, so that
Okay,
those,
so look
those
at this.
problems are eased.
So here it says, now therefore be it ordained that, number one, that the general plan, shall here be amended to include the Utah Master Transportation Plan, and I have highway only.
That would work, and then on the agenda specifically, put in parentheses, highway only. Then then people will understand that it's just the highway.
Okay, and then on the next page, A,
Mhm.
look at A, added as its transportation in new section labeled as such, we should say highway transportation plan.
Yes,
Yes, yes,
yes.
and you could put in the, I don't know if they care, because this is what we're giving to them, right, this is their ordinance.
Yes, but we're,
Could we put down here excluding, and then you could put side streets on whatever,
Or you could.
I don't know, am I making it too
No,
complicated? Lots of-
excluding the, local virgin transportation plan.
Yeah, she just said that should be,
Because some
Excluding
of
the,
those,
and she thinks that the
some of those
these
also have
attachments
sidewalks
are
and
the
sidewalks.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure.
And so could we put in there excluding all of the following, and then it has these figures listed? And unless they go diving into this, they won't look, they're just, a gut reaction from a person is going to say, wait, what about the side streets? So if you just put parentheses side streets.
well, I could say exclude. We could,
Well, they're not,
The paperwork they have.
they're not on the paper we're looking at, we have that, they're just not on there, but I just,
In there that
I
they're.
get exactly what that makes sense, it just.
it just clarifies it for.
we could say, where it says excluding all of the following one, we could say all of the side roads as shown in figures, da, 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 da.
So that
It's broader.
the thing is, so.
She just solved that though, by
Side
saying
roads
all
of
of the figure, all of the
So
side
one of
streets.
those figures is a sidewalk map
That solves
that
that
they're
part.
excluding.
Yeah.
One of them is the potential mobility hub and transit stop. That's, figure 13.
Why
These
would
are
that,
roadway maps.
is that the transit stop at Mill Street? Figure
So-
13, what's figure 13?
So figure 13 is the title of it, is potential
Side
mobility of the
streets.
transit.
Or
something.
where it says all figures, like, and then, 6, put parens of what it is, comma, 11, parens, what it
Okay.
is, comma,
That way you know
12,
what-
parens,
yeah.
what it is, comma.
Well, but they're
Okay.
still gonna go looking for it, so as long as they see that these are the ones that are excluded, if that side streets they're concerned, they'll look at it, like, oh.
Right,
Okay, so I still don't understand, if 13 is a hub transit stop, we only have 3 proposed transit stops on the map.
I'm just saying, that map, figure 13, that they're excluding, is titled potential mobility hub and transit stop.
I would look and see what that is, because I told you guys that tomorrow at 1:30, we've got a Zoom call with St. George Transportation Manager to talk about the stop in Virgin for this Springdale St. George shuttle.
All I'm
And
saying.
there are only
in the
3
transit-
stops that were proposed,
In
and
the
3
transportation
stations.
plan, the ones that they're excluding, one of them is figure 15 is sidewalk map.
The language though, doesn't exclude, I'm pretty sure, I can check, I'll check.
I'm just saying what they are is just not street, they're,
Hubs and streets.
and
They
the
can say hubs.
sidewalk and all that.
Why would
So
you
I would
not
just
want
put,
sidewalks?
so I would just put IE. Like.
Okay.
For example,
Okay.
side streets.
And then,
That way you don't have to address each individual thing, but you're telling them these are what they are, so if the person doesn't go delegate further. And it didn't stop them at the highway transportation part or the other part,
Okay.
it's kind of like these, for example, it doesn't include these.
okay,
Or you put, I mean, after N.
Do you know which month? In the SharePoint, the transportation plans in?
I don't know that I put the whole transportation plan in SharePoint.
Oh, you didn't?
I don't know that I did.
You put it on the website for a little while, but that was before the redaction and stuff.
Yeah, but I don't know that I put it on
SharePoint.
SharePoint. If I did, it would have been in August.
Or late, no. yeah.
Oh, no, August 2023 is when they gave us the plan, but we looked at it.
So you're thinking it's August 20th,
That would be my guess. August or September.
I guess I'll go with it.
All right. Lastly, is your capital improvements amendment, Paul, and then we're done. Then we can all go home.
it's quite simple we adopted a 5-year, capital improvements plan, and we're adding 2 new capital improvements to it, so we need to amend the plan for year 1, and those 2 amendments are, truck under parks, and the other is under buildings is the, LDS church and property.
So there was nothing on streets and roads,
No, nothing on
Okay.
streets and roads.
parks and.
And when you go to those, if you look under the park section, you'll see it in italic. And then if you go to the building section, we had none before, now the whole thing is new. We had building, but we didn't have any in it before, so now we do. So since we're adding capital improvements, we're amending our capital improvements plan.
So, my question is on the building. Why do you have it on all 5 years? I see that you have bridge loan, and then
Because,
bonds,
let
but,
me grab that.
okay, because to me,
It's not 1 year because we're gonna do,
oh, it's gonna be added every year in the future.
yeah, we're paying
Okay.
for it every year in the
Okay, I see.
future.
It's,
It's not a 1-year expense,
Just
so.
continuing.
yeah, so the
so-
next time we do a 5-year plan, it's still gonna be in year 5 and
Yeah,
year
but
5.
it's gonna have to, yeah. And as you'll see, the funding source for year 1 and 2 are bridge loans.
Yes, I saw
And then
that.
after that, it's gonna be
Bonds,
whatever.
bonds.
Bonds.
I have a question about the church in the land.
Uh-huh.
Was it surveyed?
We did not have a survey, but, we can do that as part of the, they did a survey, but we can do a survey as part of our,
Due diligence.
Due diligence.
Okay, I'd like to suggest that, and Utah is famous for having property lines and points in the wrong place. And it's determined that that's the case with the church. I mean, if it's a simple few feet for the breaker box or whoever in the town can just put plain deed or something, would work that out. I don't know. It's a problem that I just want to make sure.
Hey, Sunrise said they do surveying.
Okay.
Okay, you're on, or they're inside a contract, we'll have Sunrise do the survey.
The other thing I noticed
So
is,
first thing you need to
this
see.
is a superficial thing.
Yes.
The grass is turning brown up there.
Oh, I know it's turning brown all over.
Can they not let
Where?
us turn it on at
Oh,
the
you mean
church?
at the church?
Oh,
They,
the
they're
Church,
still
they should be maintaining it, but it's, I went up there today and it's brown. I don't know if we should mention that, because I'd rather not have to replace the grass.
I will ask them about it, but they have not stopped maintaining. The landscaping people show up. I see them there all the time.
Well, that, when you drive by in the morning or whatever,
Okay.
look at it, because today I was walking out there,
Okay,
it's like,
all right, because it's happening in all three parks. And,
the church never, as though that has never been a problem, it's always been so much.
because you can walk right out here and the grass is brown, and yet we sit there and I watch the sprinklers. They're getting,
Killing things right now.
yeah, I sit there and watch the grass get sprinkled.
Because we had so much noise right now to Justin from that.
Okay,
For our agenda,
yes,
Crystal's gonna be back on Tuesday.
no, she'll be back Monday. She will post the agenda on Monday.
Okay, all right, I just wondered about minute edits and things like that, 'cause she hadn't done it. She did, I mean, I submitted mine, but
I submitted mine.
So the minutes are already up, is what you're
I
saying.
know, I sent my edits like, over a week.
So you're wondering if she will have them
Yeah.
amended and added for us, okay.
I might not.
She may not have time to do that on Monday. I know she'll get.
I was my concern.
Okay.
I might have some changes too, because I haven't read them yet.
I have.
Maybe this week.
So I'll just put them, well, no, I can just review them, read them, and then give her, send her a list or.
What day do you leave again?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
Wow, where are you going?
Oh, Chicago and San Francisco. No, then I probably go cool off in San Francisco.
Okay, is there anything else? If there's nothing else, I'll take a look
Roll.
to adjourn.
Take the motion to adjourn.
Second.
I did that. Okay,
Well, I'm only
we're
going
adjourned.
to go forever, but
It was a very productive meeting.
it's always.